Chapter 76. The so-called artificial intelligence, Zora, is actually a combination of half spirit and half human. Ren refined Dr. Zola's spiritual consciousness and will into an existence similar to an instrument spirit, allowing it to fit in with the supercomputer. Wait until Zola has enough knowledge of cultivation. The process of Zola constantly modifying his own data algorithm and constantly refining his supercomputer body is equivalent to Ren constantly refining magic weapons. Because the core rune restriction that Ren used to transform Zola is the Yuloi treasure refining seal. A cultivating version of artificial intelligence and a top-notch supercomputer that can continue to grow. It is of great assistance to Ren's long-term spiritual practice. If it can be refined to the level of a top-grade acquired spiritual treasure, or even an acquired treasure, maybe it can be used by people who study the law after becoming a golden immortal. 413 Definitely, it will definitely be a very vast and long process. Ren shook his head and put some divergent thoughts behind him. Then Ren ignored Zola's self-adjustments and modifications in the hive system and returned to the underground alchemy room in William Castle. Zola. Buzz. Along with a wave of spiritual energy, a cloud mirror was born in the void. Condensation of spiritual energy is a method that comes with the Jade Record Treasure Refining chapter. Zola is dominated by Ren's will and thoughts. On this Dragon Pearl Island, she has almost full authority and can mobilize a large amount of infuriating energy and even activate the island defense formation. Moreover, this is also Longju Island's most unique network and energy access method. Ren glanced at Yunjing and said with a smile, "It seems that you adapted to the new knowledge, new body and new operating methods very quickly." There are electronic eyes and mouth on the cloud mirror, saying, "Yes, sir, I feel more relaxed than ever. The cultivation knowledge that my husband introduced to me is even more profound. I'm afraid I will need to go on a long learning journey for a long time to come." Clatter. Ren smiled, snapped his fingers, and connected his thoughts into the cloud mirror. Immediately afterwards, Zola remembered Ren's the god's telekinesis power and quickly scanned all the materials in the room. "Sir, all the data has been recorded, but there are many things in it that I cannot parse." "I understand. Can I record it?" "It can be recorded, but the amount of information is too huge, and the supercomputer body and energy supply speed cannot bear it. You shouldn't have scanned the Lianji dust array, the red dust hard refining furnace, and the eternal fire, right?" "Yes, sir, I looked up relevant knowledge in the weapon refining, including law, restrictions, runes, flames, furnaces, materials, aura. I am very curious." "This is not the data you have to consider, focusing on the creation of spiritual materials." "Yes, sir." After receiving Ren's clear instructions, Zola quickly fell silent and began to analyze the detailed data of all the materials in the room. As for Ren, he had a slight headache. There are still some problems with Zora's refining. In order to make use of Zora's genius as a scientist, Ren retained Zora's original will to focus on knowledge, as well as her curiosity and exploration of the unknown. In this way, the wisdom and understanding of Zola, a genius scientist, can be used to his own advantage. But retaining these, Zola became very interested in the knowledge of the extraordinary side. For example, the chaos exotic treasure embryo in the two-dimensional dust array, the eternal fire in the mortal heart refining furnace, and even the secrets of law carried by these things. Made, I didn't dare to study these things too deeply until I was inferior to the true immortal Chunyang. Zola must really try to write and record these things. Not to mention the supercomputer of an underground hive, even if the supercomputers of the entire Earth were put together, it would not be enough to burn. This is no longer a limitation of wisdom and understanding. It comes from the weight of the law's mystery itself, which cannot be carried unless it is a top-notch treasure. If the hardware is not enough, nothing will happen. Directly instilling the Jade Record Treasure Refining seal directly into it is still a bit over the top. A Jade Record and Treasure Refining chapter, the various kinds of knowledge contained in it are extremely vast. Practice, runes, materials, flames, law, restrictions, etc. After all, weapon refining originally involves all aspects of cultivation. Even if Ren only infused Zola with the first level of the Jade Record Treasure Refining seal, it was already almost the limit of what Zola's spiritual will could bear. It only converts the basic knowledge of entry into supercomputing using code. Its complexity and vastness are comparable to the aggregation of all knowledge since the birth of mankind. Zora or supercalculator, no matter how powerful they are just mortal artifacts. Even practitioners learn and pass on layer by layer, and wait until their true spirit and soul grow stronger before receiving more knowledge. The reason why people can possess the knowledge of the entire Luofu world. More than 99% of the credit is due to the system origin combined with the world mark to form the Tianfu Yunzwen, which carries the weight of knowledge, and the pure Yang Golden Bell protects Ren's soul. Otherwise, the entire knowledge of the world of cultivating immortals would have long ago crushed people into nothingness. Thanks to the deceased system boss for his contribution. Thinking about it this way, from time traveling to now, all the people I have met along the way are good people. Tisk tisk. After sighing for a while, Ren no longer thought about it. Although Zola has a strong desire and curiosity for knowledge, she is not the kind of person who seeks death on her own and has a sense of propriety. The worst thing is, I just need to restrain Zola's curiosity more in the future. It's cool to have artificial intelligence. A series of tedious tasks such as analyzing materials, combining materials, and matching runes can be left to Zora. Prioritize the material selection of the Fate Loom and refine it in 3.4 as soon as possible. As for the transformation, spiritualization, vitality, etc. of the Hive supercomputer body, it is a huge project, so we should wait. Zola at this stage is enough for the time being. If you want to upgrade the Hive supercomputer body, go back to the temporary dojo in the Presbyterian hospital, gather some skeleton demons, and let Zora handle it by yourself. Anyway, there is the Jade Record Treasure refining seal, and the other party has been struggling with it for a long time. Now, it's time to enjoy your leisure life. It seems that the door to Isabel's room upstairs is unlocked. Do you want to go for a night attack? It doesn't seem good. I have always been a gentleman. Just hold it to sleep, the vegan kind. Should be no problem. After all, it was midnight and I couldn't see the road clearly. It's understandable that I went to the wrong room. Chapter 77. In the next few days, after Ren got the tool man, he returned to the leisure and happiness he had when he first pursued Gwen. Every day, in addition to his unshakable practice, Ren accompanies Isabel and travels around ordinary human society. Occasionally, the two would go to the university to meet Gwen to play together. Definitely, Ren took some time out from his busy schedule to spend some time with Natasha Romanoff and Firefox during the night party. Regarding Ren's hands-off behavior. Naturally, Natasha Romanoff and Firefox's various kinds of resistance amidst the coquettish voices was quite exciting. Sometimes people feel that they have gone too far. Be a cow during the day and a horse at night. Hiss, my conscience hurts. However, Natasha Romanoff and Firefox seemed to like each other very much, so I could only satisfy them. Fortunately, Ren is not the kind of BD who just lets the horse run without giving it any grass. In his spare time, Ren refined the Taiyin Jade Ring again. At the same time, Ren asked Zola to separate several sub-bodies and enter the ministers of Taiyin Yahuan. This is equivalent to equipping Gwen, Isabel, Natasha Romanoff 23, and the 4 Firefox girls with a portable artificial intelligence. With the help of artificial intelligence, the work of Natasha Romanoff and Firefox is naturally greatly eased. Even Gwen's learning and Isabel's grasp of the world have been greatly accelerated. Ren thinks that since he has given so much, he can only be considered sentimental and a scumbag. 2 weeks later, Ren also received a message from Zola, and the analysis of the spiritual material shaping was completed. At the same time, the split auction of Osborn Group and the reorganization of Sullivan Group are about to be completed. With the main assets of the Osborn Group being merged into the Sullivan Group, a large number of staff will become Ren's subordinates. Among them, existences such as Dr. Octopus and Electro also need to be conquered. Relying solely on the restriction of people by prohibitions would be too scattered and unable to restrain the loyalty of your subordinates. As a result, the refining of the loom of destiny is imminent. Otherwise, if you want to find the next material with destiny attributes, you don't know how long it will take. Only the spiritual cloth woven by fate can be barely used to initially refine the list of gods. After getting the news from Zola, Ren quickly found a reason to coax Isabel into the Sullivan Group and asked her to help Natasha Romanoff. Immediately afterwards, Ren returned to the underground alchemy room in William Castle again. Zola, come up with the most perfect spiritual material shaping plan. Yes, sir, there are currently a total of 38 spiritual material shaping plans, among which the Heart of Oak. Zola's voice echoed in the room. The cloud mirror soon appeared again, like a water curtain, pulling out a large number of 3D models transformed by spiritual energy. After a sweep of the gods' telekinesis, Ren quickly selected a few of the plans and prepared to create the spiritual materials to take a closer look at the effects. There is a complete data list and combination cases. With Zola's help, in just one afternoon, Ren had 7 more subtop spiritual trees with destiny attributes in his hands. This kind of efficiency is much higher than Ren's own deduction and testing step by step. However, Zola's auxiliary ability is strong in calculation, analysis, and combination. The actual effect of the 7 truly refined spirit trees was much different from Zola's calculated results. Most of them are the differences of creation created by spiritual integration. Unless you can truly grasp the law of creation, you can ensure that the derivation results are accurate. But even so, it was enough to surprise Ren. Zorn, record the attribute effects of the 7 kinds of spiritual trees, calculate the differences, and you can save and analyze them later. Instructed Zola. Ren quickly began to think about the next refinement of the destiny loom. It has to be said that the existence of world tree is comparable to the top innate spiritual roots in the Luofu world. Just a trace of the tendons of the leaves of the world tree, combined with some secondary souls. After the combination of spiritual material shaping techniques. Each of these 7 types of spiritual trees is qualified to refine high-grade acquired spiritual treasures, and even has the potential to impact the top-grade acquired spiritual treasures. If Ren didn't have the help of the eternal fire, he might not even be able to use this spiritual material to refine treasures. The mana burning alone cannot withstand it. Maybe even one piece of spiritual material has not been warmed and cultivated, and all the mana has been exhausted. In the world of Luofu, this kind of subtop spiritual material is also an extremely precious existence, and cannot be possessed by anyone other than a pure Yang true immortal, or even an immortal golden immortal or above. If you think about it this way, the Asir gods in Northern Europe are really wasting their resources. Odin possesses many top-level treasures. It took him 5,000 years to grow to level Godfather, and he is also in danger of ending his lifespan. Mad, if you have the chance, just grab the world tree. Ren internally complained about Odin and his like for a while. After careful consideration, I chose the one among the 7 spiritual trees that was closest to Creed's destiny attributes. Even in the knowledge system of Luofu world, there are not many examples of how to turn a loom into a spiritual treasure. Not to mention, it is a looming magic treasure that refines the attribute of destiny. The best choice is to optimize and refine it with reference to the most original destiny loom that has been passed down for thousands of years by the Mutual Aid Association. Destiny is originally the most mysterious force and law. Maybe, the original loom of destiny is the best arrangement of destiny. After having the reference plan, Ren quickly screened out some rune restrictions with destiny attributes in the Luofu world. With the assistance of the red dust heart refining furnace and the eternal fire, he engraved the rune restrictions onto the spirit tree, along with the branches and leaves of the world filled inside. Hook up. Immediately afterwards, under the tempering of the eternal fire, the spirit wood slowly changed its shape. As for Ren, he activated the Jotien galaxy formation, transformed it into the aura of the infinite galaxy, and poured it into it. Ren does not have the ability to refine real acquired spiritual treasures. After all, Ren now is only in the foundation building stage. But Ren's biggest advantage is that he has extremely extensive and vast knowledge of cultivation, as well as extremely complete rune restrictions on various spiritual treasures. In addition, Ren is very good at using all the resources around him, and he can always refine Ling Bao embryos. I can only say that the Jade Record Treasure Refining Seal is an eternal god. Just refine the Ling Bao embryo and let it grow on its own with the help of the natural power of heaven and earth. The power of heaven, earth, and the universe is endless. Natural creation is far better than refining it yourself. This is wisdom. It feels like it's hanging, but I really don't want to poke it. After it is put on the shelves, 160,000 words will be tested and promoted. It is very important. I ask the bosses to order custom orders, flowers, reviews and other data. Chapter 78. 3 days later, a violent fire came from the underground alchemy room in Longju Island, William Castle. Following. The whole room is filled with a large number of array patterns, and the 2 qi of yin and yang that are born in the birth and death of the world rise from the tai chi patterns on the ground, protecting everything around them. And in this gap where the 2 qi of yin and yang and the eternal fire light intersect, Ren looked slightly embarrassed, with a smile on his face, and walked out of it holding a small loom of destiny. This destiny loom looks small and exquisite, but it has a misty light flowing around it. After staring for a long time, it seems that in the flowing misty light, you can see the epitome of a long river of destiny, which makes people dizzy, and will forget everything in an instant. The embryos of top-quality acquired spiritual treasures may grow into top-quality acquired spiritual treasures. Good baby, really good baby. Get out of the firelight. Ren quickly threw the fate loom into the air, and then the fate loom slowly became normal size and landed steadily in the corner of the underground alchemy room. In that corner, Ren had already isolated an open space and arranged destiny guidance runes. A large amount of spiritual materials were refined into water and poured into the cobweb solution developed by Gwen. With the combination of spiritual water and cobweb solution, a large number of silk threads are introduced into the entrance of the destiny loom along a special device. The pale golden silk thread falls into it like a waterfall, forming a perfect cycle. Zola, you come to control and guide the operation of the loom of destiny, and I will instill the prohibition of becoming a god into you. Yes, Doctor. Zola's response echoed throughout the room. What followed was that with the large supply of spiritual energy, the destiny loom quickly began to operate. After a while, a piece of pale golden spiritual cloth 3 feet 3 inches wide and 9 feet 5 inches long came out of the fate loom. On the light golden spiritual cloth, there are densely packed God-conferring restrictions forming auspicious cloud patterns. And this is just the first spiritual material used to refine the list of gods. If you want to refine a real list of gods, even if it is just a basic copycat version, you will need a total of 129,600 such spiritual materials. The forbidden patterns on each piece of spiritual material are different. 129,600 spiritual materials must be gathered together to refine a list of gods. And each list of gods needs to draw the essence of stars with similar attributes for 7, 79 and 49 days before it can carry a person's divinity. Definitely, with the Jotyen galaxy formation here, the essence of the stars will be much higher, and this accumulation process can be ignored. Wait until you have collected all 365 gods list home pages. In addition, there are 84,000 copies of the conferred god list as a side job. Only by adding all the gods lists together can one achieve the true gods list, which is the rare treasure of heaven, the Book of Heaven. Definitely, only the rare treasures born from heaven are called heavenly books. A list of gods refined like this by Ren can only be called the Golden Book of Taoist soldiers, and it is also among the rich treasures. For people at this stage, the Taoist Golden Book version of the Feng Shen list is enough. What's more, if the Golden Book of Taoist arms can grow to the extreme and be tempered by the origin of the world, it may not be able to become the heavenly book of gods in this world. After a lot of resources are consumed. Not long after, several more home pages of the conferred gods list appeared in Ren's hand. Immediately afterwards, Ren summoned the eternal fire and refined several home pages of the conferred gods list into pale golden pages of golden books and jade. The embryo of the exotic treasure is formed, and the refining of the weapon is finally complete. Completely refine the Taoist Golden Book and put it into the purple mansion within the body for cultivation. It was only at this moment that an extremely solid and firm sense of security completely spread in Ren's heart. In the past, Ren acted domineeringly, but after all, his inner Taoist heart was not solid. The various villains in the Marvel universe are no worse than many fantasy novels. Ancient One, Odin, Hela, Mephisto, Earth God, Thanos, Dormammu, etc., there are countless. Even if Ren by chance refined a blood-transforming magic sword that could rival the existence of level Godfather, he could only use it as a deterrent force to scare people. With Dragon Pearl Island, after setting up multiple complex formations, Ren barely gained some confidence and dared to say that he could be invincible. But even so, Ren would occasionally worry about what to do if someone blocked the door after provoking some tyrannical beings. With so many magical means at his disposal, it would not be surprising if the Ancient One suddenly wanted to do justice for heaven one day. But with the Taoist Golden Book, Ren now has the means to fight back. Once the Feng Shen Taoist soldiers are recorded in the Golden Book, they will have the power of immortality. With the Jotyen Zinc formation gathering spiritual energy and star essence, he has an endless supply of Taoist soldiers in his hands. He can go out to fight on the island, collect resources, and shake things up. Whoever dares to block his own door will be destroyed by the god of war. Even if it can't be destroyed, it can still destroy the power under its command, harass the other party, and disgust the other party to death. Absolute defense, plus endless continuous damage. Just ask who else. All is ready except for the opportunity. After gaining confidence, Ren's Taoist mind suddenly became clear, his foundation became stronger, and even his control of magic power became many times more sophisticated and flexible. From now on, I am the ancestor of this world. After being bored in the underground alchemy room for 3 full days, Ren finally stepped out of the castle with a touch of arrogance. I haven't waited for Ren to enjoy the beauty of his Taoist scene. In the Taiyin Jade Ring, dozens of messages from various parties have been sent in succession. Most of them are harassment to me by Isabel, a little girl, and some of them are private conversations between Gwen and herself. In addition, there are also summonses for Natasha Romanoff and Firefox. As for Natasha Romanoff, she has completely annexed the Osborn Group. She even bought the Osborn building for $0 and moved the entire Sullivan Group into it. From now on, there will be no Osborn Group in this world, only the Sullivan Group and the Sullivan building. However, after the Sullivan Group completes its integration, there are many things that need to be solved by Ren personally. As for Firefox, it has also completed the integration of the underground gang forces in Nyoyo, and has completed the docking of interests with most of the gang forces in America. Similarly, in terms of underground forces, there are also some things that need to be decided by Ren himself. I finished reading the communication in Taiyin Yahuan. Ren was in a good mood, so he replied messages to the 4 girls respectively, then cleaned himself up, changed into tailor-made clothes, got into a rare luxury car, and drove to the Sullivan building. After having a complete trump card and foundation, people's behavior becomes less urgent and becomes more relaxed. Chapter 79. The integration of Sullivan Group is completed, and the future is related to Ren's resource collection of Earth evil energy. The rise of underground forces is related to the improvement of magical weapons such as the Bone God Demon and the blood-transforming demon sword in Ren's hands. Ren didn't delay for too long and soon arrived at the original Osborn building. When I came last time, the Osborn building is still just the Osborn building, and Ren's cultivation and power are only a few. It's just that it's been more than half a year. Today's Osborn building has been completely renamed Sullivan Building. Ren, the small shareholder who originally had to rely on a bribe of $100 million to steal part of Osborn Group's resources, has now become a behemoth that has swallowed up the entire Osborn Group. At the beginning of the 21st century, the military-industrial group with a market value of $100 billion represented something very profound. In this era, network technology has not yet become mainstream. The market value of hundreds of billions is not as powerful as it was later. Especially in the process of annexing the Osborn Group, Ren relied on the green light from the White House, the military, the FBI and other forces, and also had Stern's crazy strings. From the Osborn Group's split auction process, what was obtained were high-quality properties with great potential. Osborn Building, supporting biotechnology production lines, composite military manufacturing plants, etc. Today's Sullivan Group is already a top biotechnology and military enterprise with tentacles in all parts of America and even enough channels to extend to the world. And the most important thing is that Ren got the high-quality assets of the entire Osborn Group without spending a penny. Ren has acquired a large number of industrial assets in biotechnology and military industry. The White House, the military, the FBI, the Legislative Yuan, etc. collected a large amount of cash from the Osborn Group during its bankruptcy. All foreign debt and drag are thrown to banks, local governments, and world-renowned buyers during the split auction process. If it weren't for the title of profit, it would be difficult to record it. Maybe this wave of annexation of Osborn Group can also bring a lot of cash income to Sullivan Group. It can only be said that Stern, the White House, the military, and others are more evil-minded. But it doesn't matter. At this stage, Ren has no shortage of cash and profitable projects. The cleanup of the Saint family and the contracted vampires has already made a fortune in human blood. After the entire Hell's Kitchen is settled, the entire West Central City is a super cornucopia in Ren's hands. After the White House incident, Ren suddenly became the underworld overlord of Niue and even America. The amount of black money that was gathered from the underground forces every day was countless. Not to mention, Ren also has Lizard Serum and Presbyterian Hospital, 2 major money-making tools in his hands. Said without politeness. After the integration is completed, the Sullivan Group is even more impressive than the previous Osborn Group. Even without the stock market appreciation after listing, the actual assets and revenue alone are enough to be called a billionaire giant. The Sullivan Group is definitely going public. Ren has swallowed such a huge piece of fat from the Osborn Group. If he does not give some sweeteners to the White House, the military, the FBI, the Legislative Yuan and other senior officials, there will be a huge backlash. Only opaque operations in the stock market can satisfy those predators. Fortunately, Ren's control over the Sullivan Group is still very strong. Even behind the scenes, shareholders at the level of the White House and the military have at most dividend rights but no management rights. We walked past the Sullivan Building along the way. From the moment Ren stepped into the Sullivan Building, senior executives from various departments of the group continued to report to Ren. By the time Ren arrived at the top floor of the Sullivan Building, dozens of group executives were already following him. Suddenly, Ren's footsteps stopped, and dozens of elite managers behind him fell silent. At the same time, Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, Isabel, Frank, John, Professor Connors, and others gathered together to guard the door of an extremely luxurious large office. Seeing Ren's arrival, everyone was very excited and called out Chairman. These people are Ren's true confidants and team members. And I have to say that this kind of ritual feeling, which is like the Emperor ascending the throne, is quite refreshing. Beyond Natasha Romanoff and others is the ultra-luxurious office that originally belonged to Norman Osborn. This office integrates office, leisure, life, sports, and experiments, occupying the top 2 floors of the entire Sullivan Building. Ren also came here more than half a year ago. At that time, Ren struggled to meet Norman Osborn even once and spent a full $100 million on tickets. But now, Norman Osborn has been destroyed physically and mentally. The palace that originally belonged to the other party has been reorganized and has become his own palace. Things change, and destiny is unpredictable. Ren waved his hand, causing the group of senior executives behind him to disperse. Afterwards, Ren, surrounded by his confidants such as Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, Isabel, Frank, John, Professor Connors, etc., opened the door directly. Bright and open duplex layout, floor-to-ceiling windows, and open clear skylights. Among the huge amounts of the chairman's office, there is even a small sky garden and an internal helicopter lifting platform. When you come to the window, you can overlook most of Manhattan, the most prosperous city center in the world. After a while, people suddenly turned around, and a Taoist heart that had just taken root due to a great sense of security suddenly bloomed with immeasurable light. Pearls generate light, illuminating prosperity. In the process of this sublimation of Taoist heart, the traces of hidden dangers left by Ren's original magic method were completely eliminated like blue smoke. The mind of Tao is constant, rejoicing in things and not feeling sad about oneself. In a sense, it wasn't until this moment that Ren's state of mind truly kept up with the growth of his own cultivation. It only took a total of 3 years for Ren to travel from Blue Star. Probably because of the infinite cultivation knowledge brought by the Luofu world mark, even under the constraints of various resources, the cultivation level can be improved very rapidly. Cultivation, magic, magical powers, and spiritual treasures can all be shortcuts. There is no shortcut to having a Taoist heart. The mind originally makes various decisions in the process of people's practice. Either fear, harshness, bluffing, etc. Ren turned around and looked at his cronies. All his emotions were like threads, being completely tied up and eventually turned into infinite nourishment to nourish his Taoist heart. The immortal foundation is greatly accomplished, and the Tao is perfect. Next, all you need to do is raise the 5 elements spiritual insects and cultivate the earthly evil energy. People can step into the realm of Disha at any time. Chapter 80. Sullivan Group Chairman's Office. On a casual viewing platform near the Sky Garden, Ren took out some spiritual material resources produced after the establishment of Dragon Pearl Island from the lunar jade ring. Some fruits and refreshments that start to spiritualize. There are also some cigars and drinks made from special herbs and elixirs. When the new king ascends the throne, it is natural to celebrate together. Ren himself, needless to say, was hugging 2 girls, Natasha Romanoff and Firefox, and Isabel was standing next to him, trying to kill Ren with his eyes. The rest of the people, Frank and John, knew something about spiritual practice. The 2 cold-faced men were smoking cigars and holding bottles of wine, looking very comfortable at the moment. The remaining Connors, Sloane, Stern, and Cross still didn't understand these spiritual materials, and they all looked at Frank and John with contempt. Until Cross and Stern lit their cigars and took a puff. The spiritual herbs in the cigar, made with special medicine refining techniques, turn into spiritual energy that nourishes the soul and sinks into the mind. Moisturized by this spiritual smoke, the raging evil spirits and cruel and vicious emotions in the 2 people's hearts were swept away, as if they had returned to their mother's womb, and their whole bodies were filled with warmth. The stretching and cleansing of the soul brings about obvious changes in the aura of the whole person. Ba! Ba! After tasting the first bite of the benefits, cross and stern, the number one master of the League of Extraordinary Assassins, and a multifaceted spy at the core of HYDRA. At this moment, everyone wanted to put the whole cigar into their mouths and start smoking, which was so fierce. The benefits brought by spiritual cigars are already so obvious. Cross and Stern rolled their eyes and frequently glanced at the drinks occupied by Frank and John. The two of them didn't pay attention to other items such as juice and pastries. After all, there are women such as Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, Isabel, and others present, so we can't compete with the boss's women for benefits. 4 big smoking guns were rolling. Connors and Sloane, who were closer to Frank, John, Cross, and Stern, couldn't help frowning. They instinctively wanted to stay away, but they didn't want to show it too obviously. With this useless look, can it leave a good impression on the guests? Sloane serves as Close's direct leader. Just when Sloane opened his mouth and was about to mention Cross a little bit, a wisp of smoke followed his breath and entered Sloane's heart. Warm and refreshing, like gurgling water, it brushes away the fatigue in Sloane's old soul. Even Sloane's mental vision became clearer at this moment, and the power of the letter increased. A bunch of bastards, they don't even know what to do to remind them of their benefits. The words of advice and scolding were stuck in my throat and I could no longer say them out. Sloane glanced at Professor Connors, who was still in the dark at the end, with a look of pity in his eyes. Then, Sloane silently touched a cigar and lit it happily. Cigars are already so exciting. I don't know what it's like to have the drinks that these two bastards, Frank and John, feel like. Eat more, occupy more, and give birth to a son in the future. At this moment, Sloane, Stern, Cross, Frank, and John began to quarrel over the cigars and spirits on the table. At this time, Natasha Romanoff and Firefox also informed Ren of most of the things accumulated during this period. The report ends after seeing Ren. Professor Connors could no longer hold back and glanced at the others with disdain, saying, "Chairman, according to your instructions, the laboratory for cultivating 5 elements spiritual insects and integrating genes has been moved into the hive. The rapid hemostasis and recovery medicines developed in the lizard serum experiment were transferred within the group. At the same time, in the process of taking over the group's R&D department, I discovered that there were many projects in the original Osborn Group that deserved greater investment. Professor Connors' current external identity is the director of the R&D department of the Sullivan Group. Professor Connors has the right to get involved and review almost all the research and development matters of the entire newly formed Sullivan Group. And as a top genius in biotechnology, there is no need to question Professor Connors' vision. Every project he values has great advantages. Please give me flowers." In the process of talking, Professor Connors also looked at Frank, John, Sloane, Stern, and Close with disdain. "Humph, a group of drunkards who only know how to fight, kill, and use evil tricks. I, Kurt Connors, am the brightest kid under the chairman." Frank and others seemed not to notice Professor Connors's contempt, and even looked back at Connors with a pitiful look. "Hey, engaging in science and research makes people stupid. How pitiful." Frank and other people don't care about Professor Connors' contempt and continue to fight for more and more. And the other side. After Ren heard Professor Connors's return, he became a little more solemn and patted Natasha Romanoff and Firefox on the buttocks to let the two girls leave their arms. Immediately, Ren took the report and said, "Professor Connors, drink tea, I will take a look at these project reports first." The courtesy and care from the group chairman. While Professor Connors was flattered, he was also proud in his heart. He held up the teacup with one hand slightly solemnly. The traditional tea aroma and deep fruity aroma quickly spread to your nose. English Earl Grey black tea is really good tea. Professor Connors can be considered to have seen the world. Just by smelling the smell, he was sure that this was definitely the most mellow and pure John the Cow Kingdom's royal tribute. Take a sip of tea, the aroma of tea and fruit, mixed with a special mellow energy, permeates the whole body. At this moment, Professor Connors felt as if he was 10 years younger. Even his broken arm seemed to be growing back. In an instant, Professor Connors saw Frank and others happily smoking cigars. Immediately afterwards, Professor Connors froze. "I am so stupid. The chairman has shown many magical places a long time ago. Why do I think that the things that the chairman brought out for a small banquet are ordinary things? And Frank and John, those two FG bastards. When we were at Presbyterian Hospital, we were already colleagues, so we probably had some feelings for each other. If you don't even remind yourself of this, you should be damned." Chapter 81. In the chairman's office of Sullivan Building, Professor Connors, even with one hand, carries the entire R&D department on his back, and fights with others. He is extremely ferocious, and his posture is somewhat more ferocious than assassins, killers, and warriors. The key is that Professor Connors holds the lizard serum in his hands, and no one dares to offend him. Not much time. Professor Connors had a cigar in his mouth and a wine bottle in his hand, with a proud look on his face. At this time, Wren was carefully looking at the project report submitted by Professor Connors. The original Osborn Group was very talented. Norman Osborn's body-strengthening serum and supporting individual combat equipment. Otto Gunther, the future Dr. Octopus's neural link technology, intelligent mechanical assistance and Wen experiments. Max Dillon, also known as 820, is the future electro-optical man's bioelectric energy experiment and electrical transmission project. These are the future famous supervillains in the Marvel movie world. But after putting aside the prejudices of justice and evil, barring accidents, these people and these projects all have great potential that can be tapped. Neural connection technology and individual combat equipment, with a little integration, and with the assistance of artificial intelligence Zora, you can easily achieve the knockoff Iron Man achievement. Tritium experiment and electrical transmission engineering is almost equal to unlimited energy replenishment. Through the human strengthening serum and bioelectric energy experiment, it might be possible to cultivate a mutant-level spiritual beast, the electric eel. Even if it's on Wren's body. Once these experiments produce results, they can also be used to check for gaps and fill in some resources on Wren's path of spiritual practice. Besides, among several projects specially marked by Professor Connors, Wren also discovered that the Osborn Group actually cooperated with Killian in Iron Man 3 in areas such as biotechnology, extremis, and nanotechnology. Dr. Helen's regeneration cradle plan in Avengers 2 also came to seek investment. Needless to say, the Osborn Group is indeed a concentration camp of natural villains. In other words, there may be something wrong with the feng shui of the Osborn building. Norman Osborn is a good guy, but it's a pity that he can't withstand the backlash of luck brought by these supervillains, so he can only accept these benefits silently. Snapped. Wren quickly closed the project report in his hand, and everyone suddenly became more serious. Wren glanced at the messy scene on the table and the corners of his mouth twitched. Immediately, Wren waved his hand and took out several cigars, drinks, and other items made of spiritual materials from the Taiyin jade ring, and then looked at Professor Connors. Professor Connors, your investigation report is very good. Leaving the R&D department to you seems to be the right choice. I'll leave it to you to contact Dr. Otto Gunther and engineer Max Dillon. The group will give a certain degree of funding to their experimental projects. You can choose to reveal the true situation of the hive base and its extraordinary existence to the two of you. Follow up, we will pay attention to the experimental progress and character of the two people, and if possible, include them in the core. This can be considered a very bold and generous authorization. After hearing Wren's words, Professor Connors' eyes suddenly gleamed, as if he wanted to rip his heart out to show his loyalty. Chairman, don't worry, I will definitely supervise the group's R&D department. As well as Dr. Gunther and Engineer Dillon, I will definitely train them well and ensure their loyalty. Success and fame are the current situation of Professor Connors. Such achievements and gains have made Professor Connors extremely loyal, full of motivation and impassioned. Loyalty is available and wisdom is extraordinary. Wren looked at Professor Connors for a moment, thought about it, and took out a supplementary page of the list of gods. As soon as the secondary page of the list of gods appeared, it bloomed with a faint silver light, and there was an extremely luxurious star pattern flowing throughout the body. It looked great, and you could tell it was extraordinary at a glance. Ignoring the desire, surprise, and shock of everyone present, Wren said calmly, "This is the list of gods. It carries people's true spirits and gathers spirituality to help people become gods." As soon as the words fell, the whole place was filled with dead silence. As Wren's confidants, everyone present had learned about Eastern spiritual cultivation, as well as many scattered folk myths, fairy tales, and prehistoric novels. What is the list of gods? No one knows what the real situation is, but the legend alone is enough to make people yearn for it and full of longing. Wren continued, "Professor Connors, since you joined my staff, you have developed lizard serum, developed genetic medicine, helped Presbyterian Hospital expand its technology, and created many super lizard warriors. Now, I give you an opportunity to be included in your true name, inherit my influence, and be used by me. Whether you want to or not is your own choice, and I won't force you. If you choose yes, then concentrate, recite your true name silently, and write it down on this list of gods. Once you succeed, your life, death, soul, and true spirit will all be my personal property, and there is no possibility of changing it. But similarly, when I become enlightened, you will also become my subordinate god. Ren hasn't finished speaking yet. Professor Connors had already bitten his finger with great excitement, mourned something in his mouth, and wrote his name. Ren, Mud, you are stupid after reading a novel. Why are you biting your finger? I really thought it would be useful to shed blood to identify the master. For something as lofty as the conferred gods list, smearing it with your mortal blood would be like desecrating it. As expected. After Professor Connors finished writing his name, on the back page of the list of gods, there was a silver cloud shaking off the blood of Professor Connors, and then a trace of the true spirit of Professor Connors appeared, and then he regained his composure. Professor Connors, everyone, the disgust on the back page of the list of gods is simply too obvious. Professor Connors smiled awkwardly and said, Chairman, has this been successful? Yet. Ren nodded and said, don't look at random things from now on. Mortal blood is useless. As long as you are sincere and have a correct attitude, you will succeed. Professor Connors no longer felt embarrassed after hearing this, and he giggled even more happily. Others, on the other hand, stared at Ren with extremely envious eyes. Ren ignored him at all and stretched out his hand to gently tap Professor Connors' eyebrows. If a true spirit is on the list, he will be his own person from now on. I will give you the Great Power and Infinite Life Observation Sutra. Chapter 82. In the world of Luofu, the Sutra of Infinite Aspects of Life is not even considered a formal fundamental method. In essence, this is a method of reciting Buddha's name to achieve enlightenment. The so-called Yuantong is actually an existence similar to Taoist supernatural powers. The 6 Buddhist powers, such as the heavenly eyes, heavenly ears, and divine feet, are all Buddhist methods of perfect enlightenment. As for the great situation, it was a great Buddhist master in the Luofu world who created the method of reciting Buddha's name and perfecting it. Together with the method of Avalokitesvara's ear root and perfecting it, it promoted the so-called sound Buddhist practice in Buddhism. There are only 289 words in the entire chapter of reciting the Buddha's name to enlightenment. As long as you continue to familiarize yourself with it and read it thoroughly, even a stupid person can master it. From then on, wisdom and light were enlightened, and I understood the essentials of the samadhi of reciting the name of the Buddha. Originally, this was not a method of extraordinary cultivation. At most, it could only be through the sound of Buddhist teachings, and one's inner thoughts could be founded in the Buddha and Bodhisattva of inner belief. In essence, this is a method of worship and spiritual perfection. Use this method to communicate with the God list. Then combine this method with the Infinite 23 Avalokitesvara Sutra, and it can become a special practice method. Increase wisdom, tranquility, longevity, sharp ears, and eyesight, and become the God of the branch of wisdom. Among the many cultivation methods known to people, in a sense, this is the one with the lowest combat power, the weakest cultivation level, and the slowest practice. But the advantage is that one-click foolproof operation is stable and intelligent. As long as Connors memorized the entire 289 words until they became familiar and instinctive, he didn't have to worry about it. The conferred God list will naturally absorb spiritual energy for Connors, improve his cultivation, improve his body, etc. Wait until it reaches a certain level. Professor Connors can also study the Mahasthamaprapta Pure Mindfulness Sutra, Manjushri Wisdom Sutra, etc., and has a bright future. In fact, there is nothing we can do about it. The world where humans live is originally Western in nature, with no Eastern mythology. In addition, Professor Connors is just a scientific researcher and rarely participates in combat. That's why Ren asked Professor Connors to use one-click fool training in the early stage of training to help the other party achieve the goal of becoming a divine soldier. At the same time, he could better conduct scientific research and accumulate training resources for himself. Not just Professor Connors, but also Ren's future plans. This is the case for people on the research side such as Dr. Octopus, Dr. Maya, and Dr. Helen. Save worry, effort, trouble and resources. If someone achieves great things in the future, I will not be stingy about continuing to reward them. And with Ren's guidance, Professor Connors suddenly felt as if he had been enlightened and began to recite silently. A flash of spiritual light connected with the list of gods, and a shallow halo of wisdom appeared in the back of his head. In any case, the list of gods is a high-grade acquired spiritual treasure level exotic treasure embryo. The foundation of his Deo weapon golden book is still being cultivated in Longju Island, and there is no lack of spiritual energy at all. So even if it's a fool's practice, the magic in Professor Connors was quickly revealed. And this strange phenomenon on Yuan's body also attracted everyone else present to drool with envy. Fairies like Natasha Romanoff clung to Ren's body as if their bones had been removed. Firefox, and even Isabel, moved a little slower, and also made a lot of noises. After a while, when Ren realized that even barbarian men like Frank, John, Sloane, Cross, and Stern were eager to try, Ren suddenly shuddered all over and felt a chill. The coquetry of top beauties like Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, and Isabel is a kind of enjoyment for Ren. But if it were Frank, John and others, it would be a nightmare. Stop it! Ren quickly pulled Natasha Romanoff away and said, "You are all my confidants, everyone has a share. But if you think about it clearly, if a true spirit is on the list, there will be no chance for repentance. It's not just like this when you're alive, it's like this even when you're dead, even in all your lifetimes. If you regret it now, I can give you a chance to leave. If you regret it after signing your real name, I guarantee you won't want to know what it was like." As he spoke, Ren waved his hand and scattered several pages of different lists of gods. Among them is the jade-colored page, which was made by Ren's special sacrifice and specially cultivated in a cauldron to cooperate with dual cultivation. There is a light gold page, which is the home page of the conferred gods list, with the title of battle. There is a silver page, like Professor Connors, who is the main assistant. The copycat version of the god list cannot connect with the way of heaven and incorporate the origin of the world, so it can only temporarily reach this level and cannot ask for too much. The choice was given, and Ren quickly fell silent, as if he was closing his eyes to rest. At the same time, everyone present looked at each other, and then picked up the list of gods in front of them. After a while, Ren opened his eyes, showing a look of satisfaction, stretched out his hand, and all the conferred god lists gathered together to become a golden book of Taoist soldiers, and he escaped directly into the void and returned to Longju Island. With this guarantee, people can be regarded as the beginning of the general trend and cohesion. What follows is the method of practice given to everyone. Among them, Natasha Romanoff already has the fundamental method, which is the heavenly demon Shayan Dharma. Ren changed it to give the opponent a magical power of 6 desires, which is like a succubus in the world. It can control the 6 desires, confuse people's hearts, and condense the true self. Firefox has a perfect version of the concept of destiny, and Ren directly gave him the magic of Tianmi Eining Ian, which is also the cauldron. Isabel is the most special one, given 410 the exquisite pure yin technique and the 7 emotions divine power. The deeper the practice, the greater the benefits of dual cultivation, and can even condense the exquisite 7 emotions Deo body. Frank has a violent temper, which makes Zhu Yan become a demon. John has a paranoid and cold temperament, and has become a demon. Sloane is greedy and becomes a gluttonous god and demon. Cross is perseverant and sharp, and becomes the white tiger god and demon. Stern is cunning and changeable, and can transform into a god or a devil. In Ren's arrangement, those who practice the transformation of gods and demons will be on the home page of the conferred gods list, and they are usually frontline personnel responsible for fighting. This is true even for a multifaceted spy like Stern. The transformation of gods and demons is originally a set of extremely complex and profound top-level combat techniques. They come from the same source, but each can produce their own magic. It can be said that it is a natural adaptation to the cultivation technique of Taoist soldiers and gods. When everyone's true spirits connected to the god list, they fell into the pseudo-enlightenment state of their first practice. Ren started the 5 Ghosts movement again, went to New University, arranged for his little girlfriend Gwen to be on the list, and was given the magical power of a dragnet. In this way, he was welcomed by his little girlfriend Gwen, and the atmosphere suddenly became sticky. Until there was a change in the Golden Book of Taoism. Ren just silently performed the purification technique and traveled through the air again, returning to the Sullivan building. From now on, updates will be done at night, and I will ask for it every day for customization, monthly tickets, and reviews. Chapter 83. The auxiliary practice of Fengshenbang is a one-click foolproof operation with constant speed. Only when the list of gods continues to improve, the speed of auxiliary practice will increase one level after another. It can be placed on practitioners. This first practice has improved so much that everyone can fall directly into a state of pseudo-enlightenment and absorb practice knowledge and experience to a great extent. What Ren didn't expect was, as the master of the conferred god list, the cultivation, enlightenment, and battles of the Taoist soldiers and gods under his command will actually bring him great feedback. Mana growth speed, Dao base extension speed, and mood improvement speed. It was as if Ren had another accelerator in his body. People's practice is like an exam. Originally it has the imprint of Luofu world, which is equivalent to cheating and copying. Now equipped with an accelerator, it is equivalent to someone ghostwriting. If placed in the Luofu world, even the parents and children of Hunyuan power would not receive this 1/10 of the treatment. This is the benefit of monopolizing a world. In this world, Ren is the originator of immortality cultivation. Even if he is still in the early stages of cultivation, as long as he has enough ideas, he can leverage unparalleled resources. The power of the 9 heaven stars can be used by yourself at will. No one knows the beauty of various spiritual materials for cultivation and can pick them up casually. There are a large number of talents at your disposal and selection. Return to the Sullivan building. Ren soon saw Natasha Romanoff and Firefox, who had woken up from practice first. Natasha Romanoff and Firefox, because they had already practiced dual cultivation with Ren, obtained the fundamental method earlier. At the moment, they were linked to the list of gods, and they were just a little familiar with the magical power, so they woke up the fastest. He didn't mean to interrupt the opportunity for the rest of the people. He waved his hand and dropped an isolation barrier. Ren clapped his hands, and Natasha Romanoff and Firefox were extremely obedient and came into Ren's arms. "Dear, I don't want to stay in the group anymore, these jobs are too boring." "Hey? Is it really just because of boredom?" "Well, there are a few other reasons, let Sister Firefox tell you." At this moment, Natasha Romanoff was a little bit shy. She took a cigar from the side, trimmed it, and burned it, which was quite a bit like trying to please Ren. Ren smiled, took the cigar and took a puff. The smoke that nourishes the soul is not strong, but carries a hint of spiritual essence and the fragrance of vegetation. At this time, Ren just looked at the Firefox next to him. Firefox held a glass of red wine full of soul, lightly opened her sexy red lips, and said with a smile, "Master, it was the Russian bear gang from Montgomery State who brought the news about the Red House." After Sister Natasha Romanoff got the news, she was very upset. As he spoke, Huohu glanced at Natasha Romanoff next to him, making it difficult to express. Natasha Romanoff rolled her eyes, her expression changed again, and she began to tease little Ren. Ren was speechless, could he be dismissed so easily? He didn't even have any verbal sincerity. Hiss. "Which, so what if you show off your power of words? If you dare, don't kneel down." He is a dignified immortal cultivator in the foundation building stage, has reached the full level of Yin Yang He Huan Dao, and is excellent in stick skills. Natasha Romanoff is extremely flattering. Ren still had enough energy to spare, so he looked at Firefox and said, "News from the Red House. Does the Russian bear gang have any requests?" Firefox nodded and said, "Master is wise, the Russian bear gang wants to ask for peace and re-enter the bargaining agreement." Ren exhaled a puff of smoke and said with an incomprehensible look, "I don't care about the interests of the underground forces. But if you want to ask for peace, the Russian bear gang must show sincerity. Go and talk to the Russian bear gang later and ask them to help Sister Natasha Romanoff find out all the information about the Red House. At the same time, warn them that if Natasha Romanoff is injured in the Russian bear country, I will make it impossible for the Russian bear gang to survive in the entire America." "Hey, Nana, don't get too excited. Calm down Natasha Romanoff's mood." Ren looked at Huohu again and said, "Besides the Russian bear gang, what other problems are there in terms of underground forces?" Firefox at the moment is assisting with dribbling and pressing defense. After hearing Ren's words, Firefox made a slight adjustment and said, "Our apparent enemy, the Russian bear gang, has sued for peace. The Irish clan is very calm, and there seems to be no movement from the European blood clan. Only the Hand, because our influence in Asia is relatively weak, has caused some trouble to our transportation routes, but the problem is not major. On the contrary, a businessman from the Triad Society, which has huge influence in Asia, brought a letter of visit." Ren raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Triad? Businessman?" Firefox was a little out of breath and said, "Yes, the master is the executive director of Stark Group, Obadiah Stan. The other party seems to have some private transactions that are not overt, and wants to have a chat with the owner. And according to our information, the pair contacted the triads in West Asia through 10 rings, and then transferred to our side. With the final defensive failure, Firefox was exhausted and collapsed. But Firefox doesn't seem to want to admit defeat yet. When he was exhausted, he simply turned around and joined forces with Natasha Romanoff to defeat Ren. 1 against 2 on each side. While pondering the purpose of Obadiah Stane's such covert visit, there is no doubt that the ultimate force behind the Triads and the 10 Rings should be Su Wenwu, who lived for 1,000 years in the legend of the 10 Rings. No matter whether it is before Ren becomes the overlord of the underworld or after he becomes the overlord of the underworld, the forces under Su Wenwu have good relations with the Sullivan family. So there is no need to think about Su Wenwu for the time being. Other than that, there was only Obadiah Stane's own ambition. In Iron Man 1, Stan has connections with the 10 Rings and secretly sells weapons from the Stark Group. At the same time, Obadiah Stane has always wanted to replace Tony Stark and become the master of the Stark Group. It seems that we can use this opportunity to obtain the Stark Group's arc reactor technology. Well, none of this matters. Ren also didn't expect that after Natasha Romanoff and Firefox joined forces, their firepower would increase dramatically. Not paying attention for a moment, Ren was defeated and left white tears. My dear, I won. I'm going to the Russian Bear country to kill that Didrikov with my own hands. Yes, but before you leave, you need to find a suitable CEO for the group. No problem, I've found it, and that is my current assistant and my best friend, Laura Morse. From now on, it will be updated at night, with 50,000 words updated every day. Please subscribe and comment. Chapter 84. Most of the people under Ren's command were exposed to spiritual practice for the first time, and their pseudo-enlightenment took a long time. Dr. Connors, who was first on the list, also took 2 hours to wake up. After Dr. Connors woke up, other people quickly recovered from the state of pseudo-epiphany. After Ren noticed the restricted movement in the room, he quickly removed it. Immediately afterwards, one after another powerful figures with different temperaments appeared in Ren's sight. The most eye-catching among them are Professor Connors and Frank. Professor Connors originally had a relatively cold temperament. In other words, this kind of genius scientist is indeed very intelligent, which is very consistent with the infinite life of Avalokitesvara Sutra. Just 2 hours. Professor Connors has turned the reciting Buddha's perfection into instinct and started to learn the starless contemplation of life sutra. In his body, there is a kind of transparent, clear, intelligent, and quiet temperament, full of energy and bright eyes. Through the feedback from the conferred gods list, everyone can feel that their own aura, wisdom, lifespan of the 5 senses, etc., have increased slightly. It can only be said that people who know how to use their own wisdom can do whatever they want. Professor Connors must have used the same concentration as studying the lizard serum during these 2 hours to study the Mahasthamaprapta Infinite Avalokitesvara Sutra. If these 397 growth rates can be maintained, perhaps it won't be too long before Professor Connors can begin to practice the higher level of Mahasthamaprapta pure chanting as well. Except for people like Professor Connors who are good at using their wisdom. Among the remaining people on the fighting side, Frank is the only one whose character and will are highly consistent with Zhu Yan's divine and demonic transformation. When people use enlightenment to help everyone understand the skills, others are just getting started. Frank, on the other hand, relied on that high sense of compatibility to reach the first level of the god-demon transformation in one fell swoop. Definitely, this is also related to the fact that Frank has followed Ren for the longest time, eaten and drank a lot of spiritual materials, and accumulated a lot of spiritual substances and energy in his body. But no matter what, Frank, who has stepped into the first level of the god-demon transformation, is the undoubted #1 master under Ren at the moment. In terms of normal strength alone, Frank at the moment is already comparable to the top super lizard warriors. Behind him, there is the looming shadow of Zhu Yan's rune, which turns into a tattoo brand all over his body. If this Zhu Yan form is activated, Frank's strength, speed, defense, etc. will increase several times, and he can even use part of Zhu Yan's magical abilities, which is enough to rival the strong ones in the Earth, CDCG, Evil Realm, Hammer God level. Through the feedback from the God list, Ren was able to know how powerful Frank was. As long as someone who is not level sub-godfather or above appears. At the moment, Frank can basically handle most of the troubles. At the same time, according to the list of gods, John, Sloane, and Cross have also gone very far in the entry level. It won't take long for them to step into the first level of the gods and demons. Even Stern, a multifaceted spy who was originally powerless. Now I can almost have a 50-50 match with the Captain of the United States. The first practice is over. Everyone's loyalty to Ren has reached a level that's almost like worship. Ren also encouraged everyone and once again took out a lot of spiritual materials and resources, making everyone cheer. Until this time, Natasha Romanoff had just gone out, and not long after, she brought a beautiful and mature woman in professional attire to the chairman's office. "Dear, this is Laura, an outstanding graduate from Harvard Business School and a professional manager." As early as Laura's studies, she had been involved in many large-scale commercial mergers and acquisitions projects. At the same time, Laura is also my best friend and can be trusted. Between the words of Natasha Romanoff. After Laura entered the door, she also behaved extremely cautiously, looking straight at Ren and taking the lead with a smile. Ren glanced at Laura's body casually. But he saw that Laura had a slender but curvy figure, her long brown-black hair was slightly curly, and her whole person had a gentle yet charming feeling that was very different from that of Western women. This is probably a mixed-race person with part Indian and Latin American ancestry. But under its seemingly gentle temperament, Ren could still keenly sense that every inch of muscle on the opponent's body had probably gone through a lot of hard work, as if there was a female leopard hidden in his body. As soon as he thought about it, a figure flashed in Ren's mind. If I guessed correctly, this should be the wife Laura who was hidden by Hawkeye Barton in the plot of Avengers Alliance. Younger, more beautiful, and very similar in spirit, he is still the body of Union. This is not an ordinary professional manager, but more like a spy with a different routine from Natasha Romanoff. No wonder Natasha Romanoff can become good friends with each other. Ren glanced at Natasha Romanoff speechlessly and said, "Nana, dear, are you sure this Miss Laura is a good best friend you can trust?" The smile on Natasha Romanoff's face froze, and she was immediately ready to explain something. "But right now." He spoke first and said, "Mr. Sullivan, why don't I explain it myself?" Ren nodded casually without saying a word. Laura gave Natasha Romanoff a very comforting look and said, "Mr. Sullivan, I am a level 6 agent of SHIELD, codenamed Mockingjay Bird, and am in charge of some investigations of supernatural business intrusions. As early as a year ago, after the Black Widow defection broke out in the Red House, I was the first investigator. During the course of the investigation, I met and became friends with Natasha Romanoff. But due to certain things, I had to go back to America, so I handed over the matter of Natasha Romanoff to the Barton agent who replaced me, also known as Hawkeye. After returning to SHIELD, I was involved in an internal investigation. So, it was actually me who contacted Natasha Romanoff, hoping to use the power of the Sullivan Group to withdraw from SHIELD. I'm tired of it." Ren raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Some things? Internal investigation? Can you elaborate on it?" Laura's expression changed slightly, but she quickly adjusted it. Then, Laura smiled awkwardly and said, "It's about the internal competition of SHIELD. With Nick Fury becoming director, many important positions within S.H.I.E.L.D. are undergoing changes. There is a young junior who has taken a liking to Mockingjay Bird, the acting official. The other party is a direct descendant of director Nick Fury. At the same time, someone within S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to use this position adjustment to make hidden rules against me." Ren, he glanced at Laura's not hot but charming and plump figure. "Ahem. Well, the logic is rigorous, very reasonable, and there is nothing wrong with it. All I can say is that Nick Fury is a pretty good guy, and he has given himself another talent." Chapter 85. The shortcomings of human nature are inevitable no matter where they are. Whether it's S.H.I.E.L.D. or official, it's all equally inevitable. What's more, in a place where secrets, spies, agents, etc. gather everywhere, it may become even darker, or in other words, dirty. Ren could sense that the previous generation Mockingjay Bird agent opposite him had no malicious intent. This ability to perceive good and evil is one of the feedbacks Isabel gave Ren through the conferred gods list after she initially mastered the Ling Long Pure Yin Ju and the 7 emotions magical power. This thing is like a constant buff on Ren. Perceive that the other party does not mean any harm. All that's left is to verify whether what the other party said is true or not. "Stern, it's time for you to show off." "Okay, Your Majesty, your most loyal servant is always ready to serve you." Stern is a guy who already has a natural instinct for flattery and flattery. But fortunately, in addition to flattery and flattery, the other party's ability is also quite good. It only took less than 5 minutes to get the truth of the matter from the HYDRA members of SHIELD. As Laura said, the other party's current situation is very bad. Laura is a commercial spy and belongs to the neutral faction between Alexander and Nick Fury. After Nick Fury took over, although on the surface he respected and trusted Alexander, the former SHIELD director, secretly, he had been squeezing out his subordinates. Laura is the kind of fish in the pond who is affected by disaster. The direct descendants of Nick Fury want to take the lead, but they are not chasing after them. Someone in HYDRA wanted to sneak in and rule the opponent, so they kept putting pressure on them from the front. If it were in the original Marvel movie universe, Laura should have used the power of Hawkeye Barton to escape from the vortex of S.H.I.E.L.D's internal struggle. Now, due to the influence of Ren, Natasha Romanoff, and others, Laura has a new choice. After annexing the Osborn Group, today's Sullivan Group is already America's leading presence in biotechnology and the military, even slightly inferior to the Stark Group. As long as Ren Sullivan agrees, he can help Laura get out of S.H.I.E.L.D's troubles. After getting the truth of the matter, Ren didn't make a decision immediately, but had a moment to think about it. At this time, Natasha Romanoff came up and said, "Honey, just help Laura. And Laura is really capable in business. This time we were able to annex the entire Osborn Group in a very short period of time. 70% of the success is Laura's. I'm just a mascot. Isn't it, my dear, that you have been looking forward to having someone help preside over the group's affairs? Pillow style and so on are still very useful. People are just cultivating immortality, not saints." After thinking about it for a while, Ren patted Natasha Romanoff to silence her, then looked at Laura and said, "You will become the CEO of Sullivan Group, but I need to put some restrictions in your head. At least, this restriction will remain until I truly trust you. But I promise, as long as you don't use any caution, this ban will never break out. Can you accept this condition?" Laura's expression changed slightly and she said, "It's just a ban, not a hidden rule or something." After finishing speaking, Laura secretly took a look at Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, and Isabel. Sensing the other person's eyes, Ren's face darkened. Then, Ren sneered and said, "I don't mind if you need it." Laura's face turned red and she said, No, I am a Catholic and I don't support pre-marriage. No, I mean, I agree. I just agree to impose restrictions, not unspoken rules." The more she spoke, the softer Laura's voice became. "There is nothing we can do. On the one hand, Laura is already in a weak position. On the other hand, Ren and everyone else in the room were very powerful." Laura was also in a state of confusion for a moment, so she became more and more confused as she talked. Ren waved his hand in an increasingly speechless manner and said, "Okay, no need to say anything else. Your next job is to cooperate with Professor Connors and adjust the development of the R&D department for Dr. Otto Gunther, Engineer Max Dillon, etc. within the group. At the same time, we will reach cooperation with MCU Aldrich Killian and Dr. Helen as soon as possible. You can handle the rest by yourself." Laura, with her natural inner charm and clear yin, is also a potential good cauldron. At the same time, she has extremely strong management and business abilities. Please give me flowers. But there is no rush to win over the opponent. After leaving a restriction in his sea of consciousness, Ren quickly sent Laura to work with Professor Connors. Wait until Laura and Professor Connors leave. Ren just looked at the remaining people and said, "Baby Nana, now that you also have the Taiyin Jade Ring and the Six Desires magical power to protect you, you can handle the affairs of the Russian Bear Gang and the Red House by yourself. Stern, Sloan, your job is to establish the Destiny cult as soon as possible, with Cross assisting. John, you have not yet broken through to the first level, so you are here to renege on the contract. Frank, regarding the chaos caused by the Hand in Asia, you can bring a team of people to solve it. 00, Firefox, regarding Obadiah Stan's visit, just go and talk to him. If it's about privately selling lizard serum, there's no need to report it. If it's about the Stark Group, just promise him, I want arc reactor technology. Everything else remains as usual, focusing on collecting resources. Don't delay your practice. Let's all disperse." Following Ren's order, Jiren left quickly. Soon, only Ren and Isabel were left in the room again. Now that the Sullivan Group has made the initial decision, Ren will naturally sit in the group building for a period of time. As for Isabel, she was always in disarray wherever she went. It is better to let him stay by his side, cultivate his feelings, and explore the differences between Eastern and Western practice. Anyway, when I am busy, I will send Isabel to Laura as a little assistant. Ren wondered if there were any flaws in his arrangement. At this time, Isabel started to hum and wander in front of Ren, with a conspicuous look and an extremely cute look. I have to say that Nicole when she was young, phew, it was Isabel, she was really beautiful. What's wrong? Are you jealous? Hey, no. ISA, you are already a mature girl. You know how to share good things, don't you? You're pooing me. What do you say about Gwen? Gwen is your best friend. Chapter 86. Facing the sophisticated Ren, the young Isha was no match after all, and was soon coaxed to be happy. After a while, Ren held Isabel in his arms and appeared lazily on the balcony of the Sky Garden. Baby Isa, do you know anything about vampires? I know. Then you talk to me about vampires. Ren hugged the limp little Gongju Isa, but in his heart he was a little worried about the situation of the Blood Clan in Europe. Right now, Ren's main enemies in America are the Russian Bear Gang, the Irish Gang, and the Hand. Among them, the Russian Bear Gang has already surrendered, and the werewolf behind them has no brains and is nothing to be afraid of. Although the Hand has caused some trouble in Asia, all its tentacles in America have been cut off by the 560 people, so there is no big problem. Only the most powerful vampires among the three parties became strangely silent. You know, in the last Beifu incident, the vampires were almost completely wiped out. There is only one dark night crawler, Serena, who was imprisoned by Ren in the lunar jade ring and imprisoned by the ghosts of the five yins. A very vengeful being like a vampire. After suffering such a big loss, not only did they not support the Irish gang to make a fuss, they even fell silent in their European home base. This has to make Ren guess whether the other party is secretly harboring some conspiracy. After eradicating the ringworm and scabies problems such as the Russian Bear Gang and the Hand Club, Ren also has an idea in his heart, preparing to wait until John, Sloane, Cross and others all step into the first level of the transformation of gods and demons. Let your subordinates gather together and go to the European vampire lair to create a big wave. In Ren's opinion, vampires and the like are excellent resources for cultivation. After the integration of the Sullivan Group, the reputation, territory and treatment scope of Presbyterian Hospital have once again expanded a lot, and it even collects blood all over the world. Now the vampire breeding farm in the Io Pagoda can be expanded again. As long as there are enough vampires to support it, maybe the blood demon sword can reach a higher level. However, for things like killing the vampire's lair, advanced intelligence work must be done. There are so many branches of vampires, and who knows what old monster is hidden somewhere. The best way to find out the strength and details of vampires is the Chaos Witch Group, which is also one of the 13 seats of the Dark Council. Many rumors say that vampires were originally created by ancient witches using black magic. Thoughts were flying around. People's palms have less habitual movements. Isabel, who was still very innocent, suddenly blushed and slapped away the big hand climbing the snow peak. Ren likes Isabel's pure appearance and is noisy again. Wait until the fuss is over. Isabel tidied her messy hair, took a sip of juice happily, and lay down on the soft chair, feeling very comfortable. Ren, stop making trouble, do you still want to hear the secrets of vampires? Okay. Ren was very angry, and wanted to push Isabel's nest directly, but after talking about business, he quickly adjusted his breath, calmed down his thoughts, and regained his composure. Isabel then smiled and teased Ren again, saying, "Have you heard of the Blood Clan 13 clan?" Ren nodded and said, "I have heard of it, but I don't know much about it. There are many rumors from the outside world. The origin, lineage, and bloodline of vampires are very confusing. The 13 Blood Clan clans are very famous, but few people know how they are actually divided and confirmed." Isabel took a sip of juice and said, "Actually, the division of Blood Clan is very clear. All Blood Clan are judged by their origin." Ren wondered, seed of original blood. Isabel nodded and said, "Yes, all Blood Clan actually originated from experiments conducted by the ancient gods with their own blood. The gods such as Jesus, Zeus, Odin, and even the more ancient gods once fought against the Hell dimension. In the war, both sides suffered many casualties, so there was a time when every pantheon was frantically creating units, hoping to gain an advantage in the war. The earliest vampires were the blood clan of kings created by the Holy Light God system, and their leader was Cain. Cain, his wife Lilith, and many other vampires such as HYDRA have achieved many achievements in the war. Later, Satan used his own blood to bewitch Cain, causing this blood clan to betray the Holy Light God system and fall into the embrace of hell. This blood clan is called the King's Clan and has holy blood. Although the blood clan created by the Holy Light God system eventually surrendered to hell, the power of the first-generation blood clan is undeniable and was quickly noticed by other gods. Other gods took the blood of Cain, Lilith, HYDRA, and others, combined them with themselves, and started experiments. The ancient myths of the Marvel world. In Isabel's words, it was quite new to appear in front of Ren in another situation. But in summary, the history of the birth of blood clan is actually a history of war. In the long ancient wars, the ancient gods of the earth created various war arms, and the blood clan is just one of them. Just because the blood clan naturally feeds on blood, its image is not very good. Therefore, these blood clan are not taken seriously by the ancient earth gods. This also caused many Mephistos in the hell dimension to use various conspiracies and interests to seduce most of the blood clan, and all of them fell into the embrace of hell. At the end of the ancient war, the gods of the earth finally won the war, and for the sake of their own glory, they defined the blood clan as a completely dark and evil creature. The powerful first and second generation blood clan all fled into the hell dimension. The remaining blood clan was suppressed and persecuted by all kinds of attacks on the earth, and had to stick together for warmth. Only then were the 13 clans gathered together according to their origin blood seeds. Among them, the blood clan that has repeatedly opposed Ren is the Jinting clan among the 13 clans of the blood clan. The source blood of the Jinting clan contains the blood of Triglav, the strongest god of war in the Slavic pantheon, and because Triglav is the integrated body of the three gods of war. Therefore, the origin blood of the Jinting clan is also called the perfect blood and has the power to integrate everything. Besides, there are also existences such as the Blood Madness clan, the Winter Sun clan, the Curse Demon clan, the Shadow Abandoned clan, the Moonfeast clan, the Soul Hunter clan, the Thousand Faces clan, and the Jade Blood clan all over Europe. The source blood seeds of each pure blood clan are different and each has its own unique characteristics. Chapter 87. The truth of history is often hidden behind books, stories, legends, dramas, etc. Without any reliable inheritance, it is difficult to know this. This is also the reason why the vampires in movies, TV series, and novels seem to be the same, but are actually very different. For example, the vampires who are against Ren are the Jinting clan, underworld, who have perfect blood. And Dracula, the most powerful vampire on Earth today, is actually a lich from the Curse clan. There are also reclusive vampires, Twilight, who are good at falling in love, and they belong to the Uian clan and have the blood of intoxication. There is also a soul-hunting clan, Bloodthirsty Dawn, that uses technological means to control captive humans and has wild blood. There is also the Shadow-Forsaken clan, which is ruthless and cannibalistic, possessing filthy blood. Besides, all in all, these vampires are essentially just a group of outcasts who join a group to keep warm. Because of the chaotic bloodline and the past war and hostility, the nature of these vampires is filled with endless conspiracies, infighting, etc. Even in the lair of the same clan. As long as they are not in danger, the 23 vampires will fight among themselves. Coupled with the various suppressions from the gods of the earth. On the earth now, except for Dracula, who relied on his own efforts to become a pseudo-heavenly father, there are no other first or second generation blood clan. In fact, there is no so-called pure-blooded blood clan on the entire earth. Those left on earth are nothing but hybrid vampires. That's right, even the dark creatures themselves believe that the blood clan and vampires are two different races. Just outrageous. There is no one else who can fight internally to this extent. After listening to Isabel's explanation, the slightest fear Ren had towards those vampires was completely eliminated. After all, he wasn't planning to catch all the vampires in one go. What he is targeting is just a branch of the Jinting clan. As long as he captures enough vampires, he can integrate a complete and perfect one. At the same time, this group of vampires is enough to expand his vampire breeding base. Definitely, wait until your cultivation and power expand again. If there is a chance, it is not impossible to catch more vampires from other clans and study other varieties of source blood seeds. Scientific research is also for the benefit of all mankind. As humans grow stronger, vampires have more food sources. Let's develop sustainably together. Presumably those vampires will agree greatly after knowing their plan. Think of this. There was no need for Ren to imprison the dark night crawler Serena. The lunar jade ring between his fingers bloomed with light, and soon the ghost of the 5 yins vomited out Serena. How to say? This vampire is pretty good looking. Hundreds of years of Yuan Yin's body, and because vampires are naturally yin, have condensed into the extremely rare Xian Yin energy. A whole Ren, what are you thinking about? Just when Ren was looking at the hundreds of years of Swan Yin energy, he was drooling silently. Isabel was very keen and noticed Ren's every thought. With the pure Yang Golden Bell suppressing the true spirit and soul, Isabel would not be able to capture good and evil emotions. But this time, it can only be said that Ren's performance was too obvious. Ahem. Ren covered it up and said, "Baby Isa, I am such a kind person, what bad thoughts can I have? Just to understand the enemy better, I want to study the structure of vampires in depth." Isabel. Is this really a human thing to say? Seeing that Isabel was getting jealous and making a fuss again, Ren immediately smiled and used his special skill, sweet talk, to control Isabel steadily. In the end, Isabel was still out of sight and out of mind, and ran to find Laura. Isabel's witch cultivation has reached a bottleneck. This time Isabel seemed to have run out to experience ordinary human life, but in fact, it was just to see more people's tricks, so as to stimulate herself and break through the bottleneck. People are not worried about Isabel running around. Wait until Isabel leaves. Ren just flicked his fingers, and a drop of blood filled with endless aura fell into Serena's mouth. It's almost visible to the naked eye. After the blood droplet sank into the opponent's mouth, Serena quickly recovered from all kinds of extremely fatal injuries. After a while, Serena opened her eyes slightly confused. Immediately afterwards, Serena rolled quickly, avoiding the sunlight in the room, and at the same time reached out to touch the gun. Ahem. When Ren saw this, he coughed lightly and reminded the other party, "You have the light protection charm I left on you. Ordinary sunlight should not hurt you." Serena didn't believe Ren's words. Even at the moment, Serena's memory still stayed in the period after the White House incident. Ren was also slightly embarrassed by his condition. The main reason is that after learning about the Loom of Destiny, I forgot about Serena as a vampire. If Ren hadn't given the order to the 5 yin ghosts to protect Serena, maybe in the lunar jade ring, Serena has long been swallowed up by the 5 yin ghosts and turned into nourishment to open up space. With a little inspiration falling, it disappeared into Serena's mind. Under the indoctrination of Ren's The Gods Telekinesis 667, Selena quickly understood what kind of situation she was in now. At the same time, Serena also understood how amazing Ren's power was. Hesitation for a long time. Serena tentatively stretched out the back of her hand and put it into the sunlight. The warmth that had not been felt in hundreds of years was like flowing water, flowing into Serena's limbs and bones. Unknowingly, when Serena came back to her senses, there were already 2 tears on her beautiful cheeks. Sunshine, it's a warm feeling. Serena slowly walked into the sunlight and stood in a daze for a long time. As for Serena's behavior, Ren didn't bother her. Waiting until Serena's mind gradually became quiet, she turned back and took a look at Ren. As if Serena had already made a decision, she came to Ren neatly, knelt down on one knee, and lowered her head to show her submission. This is not scientific. It is not metaphysical either. The memory passed to the other party by Ren the God's telekinesis, but there are the causes and consequences of the Luofu incident. Even Ren is ready to suppress the opponent again. But Ren never expected that after the other party regained his composure, he would kneel down and surrender. This Serena must have been imprisoned in the lunar jade ring and became stupid. Chapter 88. For Serena, this beautiful vampire, Ren couldn't figure out her brain circuit. But as a cultivator, Ren is calm enough. Not to mention the vampire Serena kneeling in front of her, even Lilith, one of the ancestors of vampires, has never knelt before. In the past, I was in the cuckold nightclub. The blood god space created by vampire Dickon should be connected to Lilith's blood dimension. When Lilith's power came, didn't she make her blood transforming magic sword cheaper? Thinking of this, Ren became calmer. Your Majesty, Serena begs your forgiveness for her recklessness and mistakes. Only forgiveness. Also, I don't want to die, and I can't just die like this. I also want to take revenge on Victor. Victor? Elder Vampire. Yes, Your Majesty, Victor is one of the elders of the Jinting clan. 480 years ago, Victor massacred my hometown and blocked my memory. Even Ren didn't expect it. The silence in the Tei and Yahuan space actually helped Serena restore her memory. In other words, it should be that the ghost of the 5 yins accidentally absorbed the alien energy from the opponent. Victor is also a werewolf among vampires, a little more than a werewolf. After killing Serena's family and hometown in the past, because Serena resembled his own daughter, the other party blocked Serena's memory and trained Serena into his tool. It can only be said that this Victor is really confident and not at all afraid of the backlash that Serena will cause. After learning the truth, Ren also understood why Serena surrendered and knelt down so cleanly. In Ren's view, the so-called vampire elders and their ilk have at best the combat power of Count Blood Clan, Earth Evil Realm, but they also have many fatal shortcomings. Such an enemy is not terrible, and one can even destroy it easily. But in Serena's view, a being like Victor is simply invincible. Not to mention the natural restraint between vampires' superiors and subordinates. Take refuge in Ren, surrender to Ren, in exchange for the power zone of revenge. That's what Serena is for. After thinking about this, Ren looked at Serena with amusement, and traced her chin with his fingertips. Selena, do you know what your decision means? Although vampires are immortal species and have a little bit of transcendence, they have too many fatal flaws. Any super lizard warrior under my command is more valuable in combat than you. So, do you know what your true value is? Ren has always been tolerant of women, especially women who can help him on the road. Firefox also offended Ren, but was still forgiven. Serena has lived for 500 years. Although she has never eaten pork due to Victor's daughter-controlling attitude, after all, her mind is still clear and very clear. So after just hesitation for less than 2 seconds, Serena was ready to take off her clothes directly. But at this moment, Ren stopped the other party. This 500-year-old Swanyan energy is very precious to people. Be it vampires or blood clan, they are all born with flaws. If Serena cannot correct her own flaws, then this Xianyan Qi will be flawed. So Ren would rather wait until Serena corrects her own shortcomings, or even accepts the inheritance and learns the skills. The more pure the other party refines this mysterious yin energy, the greater the benefits he can get. Maybe it can directly help yourself to achieve authentic foundation building. At the same time, it can also directly increase one's own cultivation level by more than 200 years of mana. It depends on how well this mysterious yin energy is cultivated in the end. If he could directly increase his mana cultivation by more than 200 years, even without the help of any spiritual treasures, Ren would dare to ignore any existence below the Keifu level. With the addition of spiritual treasures, Ren would dare to directly challenge the likes of Ancient One and Odin without any fear. Ren's blocking caused a slight ripple in Serena's heart. Although Serena was mentally prepared to sacrifice herself, she still longed to get some response from Ren, even if it was just a trace. After all, this is a big treasure that has been guarded for 500 years. Call me master. You will be my maid from now on. Owner. You are so good. As a reward, I will give you the Blood God Sutra of all transformations and the true secret of nourishing yin. Please sign the list of gods. Along with Ren's seal of a little spiritual light, the myriad transformation Blood God Sutra, which is specially used to cultivate pure yin, refine the essence and blood, and create the blood evil Shura battle body, was quickly poured into Serena's sea of consciousness. Immediately afterwards, a list of gods flashing with jade-colored light appeared in front of Serena. Serena did get a response from Ren. However, Ren just put Serena on the maid's seat and was still extremely moved. Seeing Serena's moved look, Ren couldn't bear it anymore. He has been used as a tool by others for 500 years. I just gave the other person a touch of sunshine as a sign of care, and that's how moved he was. Forget it, when you go back and get the 500-year-old Swanyan Qi from the other party, upgrade the other party to a concubine to be on the same level as Firefox. Firefox regards himself as his faith, and Serena regards herself as the sunshine. The two women are equally matched. With such pure faith and emotion, it would be impolite to say anything about love or not. Rua took a handful of Serena's smooth blonde hair. Serena was almost pious and signed her name on the list of gods. The conferred gods list flashed with jade light, and quickly established a link with Serena. Immediately afterwards, the jade pages of the Feng Shen list were included in the Taoist Golden Book and escaped into Longju Island. As a vampire, Serena has gained the knowledge of the universal blood god. She has an unparalleled compatibility, and her comprehension speed is far faster than ordinary people. Just 10 minutes later, all the mixed vampire bloodline in Serena's body was refined into a bloody mysterious yin energy. The energy in her whole body increased rapidly, directly reaching the level of a pure blood earl. If it weren't for Serena's defective perfect bloodline, maybe this wave could go straight to the Marquis, Tian Gang. After waking up, Shen'er comes. Serena looked at Ren again, already full of love, and said, "Master, let me repay you." Ren shook his head and said, "It's not possible yet, until you replenish your bloodline." Serena bit her red lips lightly, her eyes misty, and said, "Master, there are many ways to repay you." Ren took a deep breath and said, "Okay, remember to retract your tiger teeth. I code until 2 o'clock in the morning. I won't delay the release of a chapter in the morning. Please subscribe, ask for monthly votes, and ask for comments." Chapter 89. The Wanhua Blood God Sutra is different from other techniques passed down by Ren. In the world of Luofu, there is an extremely peculiar race called the Blood Demon Shura tribe. Its clan-suppressing technique is also its unique racial technique, which is the Wanhua Blood God Sutra. The people of the Shura clan do not cultivate the magic power and soul, but only cultivate the blood evil energy. They are fierce and powerful, and their fighting power is monstrous. Placed in this world, a blood clan Yuan Yin body like Serena. With the help of Ren and the conferred gods list, one can also cultivate the qi of Xian Yin. From then on, he will continue to perfect his bloodline and refine his blood essence, or he may be able to cultivate a true blood evil Shura fighting body. After Serena has mastered the 10,000 transformations Blood God Sutra and the true art of nourishing yin, she can be compared to the late-level monks of Disha. Put here, she can be comparable to the initial states of the pure blood Earl, Hammer God, and the Hulk. However, Europe is the base camp of the Blood Clan, and combat power at this level is not safe. After all, it is in the rumors. Dracula has reached the pinnacle of the Marquis level, and is only one step away from becoming a duke, comparable to the second-generation Blood Clan. So Ren Rang simply asked Serena to stay in the contract for a while. Anyway, there is a special vampire breeding base in the Io Pagoda below the Presbyterian Hospital. In that vampire breeding base, even Dickon of the Marquis level was suppressed. Serena can go to the Io Pagoda Tower every day to harvest a wave of Blood Clan blood essence and refine it for 350. After Serena becomes a Marquis, she can then go to Europe for revenge. By then, Serena, who possesses the blood evil mysterious yin qi, will not be able to compete with the Blood Clan of the same level, whether it is the source of life or the level of combat power. In fact, as long as Serena completes her bloodline, even her weaknesses such as being afraid of the sun will disappear. It can only be said that Serena is truly blessed by nature and good luck. It was only 3 days. Amidst the wails of hundreds of vampires in the painted pagoda, Serena has rapidly risen to the peak of Count, Earth Evil, completely replenishing her bloodline. After the bloodline is formed, Serena even launched a night attack directly on Ren. With the help of Yin Yang Hehuan Dao, Serena broke through the bottleneck in one fell swoop and stepped into the level of Marquis, Tian Gang. In this regard, Ren just felt sad for Frank. It had only been a few days since Frank had cultivated the first level of the God-Demon transformation and became the most powerful person under Ren, but he was easily taken away by Serena. Definitely, Frank had already left for Japan at the moment and didn't know the news. After Serena entered the Tiangang realm, she couldn't wait to go to Europe for revenge. Ren didn't stop Serena from doing anything. To be honest, during the few days that Serena was here, Ren was also a little stuffed. The 500-year-old daughter of Yuanyin, once ignited, her fighting power cannot be underestimated. Fortunately, this wave of Swanyan energy brought by Serena greatly replenished Ren's energy. The Xianyan Qi that has been refined by blood evil and supplemented by its origin. The effect was even greater than Ren imagined. It directly promoted Ren to the tunnel foundation building, and at the same time, it also brought a full 280 years of monocultivation. The fundamental method of human beings is the true method of Tianhe, which is known as the first method of Qi training in the Luofu world. 280 years of Tianhe Qi. The passive flushing of mana alone is enough to make Ren's energy soar to an extremely terrifying level. At the moment, Ren's magic power is as thick as the vast ocean, with the star core condensed within it, pure and vast. If the blood-transforming demonic sword is used again, swinging the sword 1,000 times will be useless. At the same time, Ren's body was also washed away like brilliant divine iron, reaching the point where he became an indestructible Vajra, an immovable king, and a Tathagata protector. With its mental power, every thought shines brightly, and the god's telekinesis can cover most of the world with just one sweep. This is less than 300 years of monocultivation. People can't help but sigh. No wonder there are people in the Luofu world who specialize in chi training and can also be called the ancestors of the clan. After endless years, they have achieved the great power of Hunyuan. When you open your mouth and blow, it will blow up into the sky. With just a swipe of your hand, the universe comes and goes. This is probably, CDFH, the legendary way to achieve enlightenment with great magic power. It's really desirable. It's a pity that without that kind of innate opportunity and that kind of lonely state of mind, I might not be able to specialize in chi training. But fortunately, I have the yin and yang of Hehuandeo, plus many girlfriends and concubines. One Serena can bear 300 years of hard work. In the future, Serena's blood evil mysterious yin energy will continue to grow. Although the effect is not as good as the first time, it can still last for more than a month of hard work every time. Except for Serena. Gwen, Isabel, Natasha Romanoff, Firefox, and others all have their own merits. Cultivation of immortality happily is the most important thing. Return to Longju Island to stay for 2 days to settle down your cultivation and state of mind. Soon, Ren returned to the Sullivan building to take charge. Ren is not willing to do Homelander, who deliberately kills people, makes treasures, and defies heaven and earth, and it is not interesting. Talk about love, train the maid, do research, and improve your cultivation. Ren is quite satisfied with this kind of life. After returning to the Sullivan building again, Lane finally remembered the 5-element spirit insect she had cultivated in the biology laboratory. After arriving all the way to the biosimulation laboratory of the R&D department, Ren found that even it provided the most suitable extreme growth environment, plus poisonous insects to kill. It took more than half a year. Although the golden centipede, green lizard, black snake, red scorpion, and jade toad that I have selected from thousands of people are already somewhat spiritually transformed into goo, the progress is not very satisfactory. This is not a question of adequate supply of spiritual energy. It's that the insect goo flow in this world is inherently deficient in their original bloodline. The reason why the spirit insects in the Luofu world are able to contain all kinds of evil spirits is because their ancestors have extraordinary bloodlines, and the strong ones are even more likely to become enlightened. But in this world, even up to the first sky era, there are no famous supernatural beasts. At the root of genetic blood, these insect poisons are useless. If you want to use the 5 elements spiritual insects to nourish the 5 elements of earthly evil chi, you must first stimulate the sublimation of the bloodline of these spiritual insects, and replenish a large amount of their origin during the genetic transition process. Otherwise, even if someone has the means to urge these insect goo into spiritual insects, the spirit worms that were spawned, and the earth evil energy they cultivated, were bound to be modeled and their power was reduced to zero. Give up these ideas decisively. Ren began to think about how to sublimate the bloodline and make genetic jumps of these insect goo. When thinking about genetic research, Ren almost instinctively thought of Professor Connors. The other party is an expert in this field. Chapter 90. The sudden increase in monocultivation finally made Ren's Taoist heart wander a little. I almost forgot my original intention. The reason why Ren planned the entire Osborn Group very early on was to use the power of technology to assist him in his practice. With the power brought about by 300 years of monocultivation, Lane only thought about the following cultivation methods to solve the problem. In fact, in the absence of a large amount of ancestor blood materials and practice resources, if you want to stimulate the sublimation of insect goo's bloodline, genetic jump, and move towards science and technology, this is the most appropriate thing. Don't say anything else. The genetically modified mutant spider in the Osborn Group is a very representative insect symbol of bloodline sublimation and genetic jump. The genetically modified mutant spider that once bit Gwen is still being raised on Longju Island. Even the list of gods refined by Ren was mixed with cobweb extracted from the spider. Compared to the prototype of the 5-element spirit insect that Ren specially cultivated, the genetically modified mutant spider has completed the process of transforming into a spiritual insect, and has bred a trace of earthly evil energy that is the attribute of creation. At the same time, it was the stimulation of that spider that made Tuan Ren never give up on cultivating the 5-element spirit insects. There have been successful cases of using science and technology to help insect goo achieve bloodline sublimation, genetic transition, and then metamorphosis of spirit insects to produce earthly evil energy. Recalling all the memories I had in the past period, I once again settled my Taoist mind. Not long. Ren has already arrived at the laboratory where Professor Connors is located in the R&D department of Sullivan Building. Unexpectedly. At the moment, Professor Connors did not continue to study the perfection of the lizard serum, but was having an intense discussion with a slightly stout middle-aged man wearing round glasses. It's Dr. Otto Günther, the Dr. Octopus who will go on a rampage in the future in the original plot. Otto, I disagree. This experiment must not continue. Why? Professor Connors, you should know that our deduction is correct. All preparations have been completed. As long as we ignite the fire, we will have endless solar energy. We will control the entire future with just a little risk. That's all. Otto Günther, that's not a small risk. The material of the protective furnace will never withstand the ignition experiment. Farkey. No experiment can succeed on the first try, Professor Connors. But with current technological means, it is impossible to control the runaway energy of the sun, and you will destroy everything. In case we can withstand it, we only need to reduce the energy output instantly after ignition. Just as the dispute between Professor Connors and Dr. Otto became more intense, Ren knocked lightly on the door number of the laboratory. The sudden sound quickly calmed down Professor Connors and Dr. Otto, both of whom looked in Ren's direction. Chairman, why are you here? Sorry, I was too focused just now to notice your arrival. Dr. Otto, come here quickly. This is the chairman's doctor I mentioned to you. Chairman, this is Dr. Otto. He has extraordinary abilities in many aspects such as neurology, mechanics, and energy. After Professor Connors became the director of the R&D department, his whole demeanor changed a lot. Even though I had a very heated argument with Dr. Otto before. But after meeting Ren, Professor Connors was still able to quickly put aside the unpleasantness caused by the dispute, and instead introduced Dr. Otto to Ren very solemnly. After hearing Professor Connors' words, Dr. Otto's face suddenly showed a look of gratitude. Saw this scene. Everyone was somewhat speechless. Professor Connors had changed a bit and started to play political tricks. But fortunately, the other party also recruits talents for himself. I reluctantly forgive the other person. Ren waved his hand to say hello to Professor Connors, and then chatted with Dr. Otto for a while. Wait until both parties are familiar with each other. Ren just asked, Professor Connors, Dr. Otto, what was the issue you were arguing about before? I seem to have heard about solar energy or something. Hearing Ren's words, Dr. Otto's expression changed slightly. Professor Connors, on the other hand, did not disparage, but highly praised, Chairman, it was the tritium experiment proposed by Dr. Otto, which used the thermonuclear fusion of deuterium and tritium as both elements, and constrained by a strengthening hard protective furnace, to achieve artificial sun, extract endless energy. Please give me flowers. Ren nodded and said, it sounds like a very good idea, so what are you arguing about? Professor Connors paused after hearing this and glanced at Dr. Otto. Dr. Otto also sighed and said dejectedly, Chairman, it's my problem, experimental when. Whether it is Professor Connors or Dr. Otto. In the face of the facts, neither of them made any boasts to Ren, but explained the problems encountered during the experiment in a matter-of-fact manner. Ren is not a pure scientific idiot. In fact, since people began to practice, they have become energetic, active in thinking, and have amazing memory. In science, Ren also has certain attainments, and even took a double PhD in biology and materials science. After listening to a series of things Dr. Otto mainly and Professor Connors added, Ren also raised his eyebrows slightly, his whole body dazed and stunned. Dr. Otto's tritium experiment was actually very flawed and imprecise in nature. The most important point is that to create an artificial sun, we need a material that can withstand the solar wind formed by the escape of plasma in solar energy. The thermonuclear fusion of deuterium and tritium isotopic elements is similar to the cold nuclear fusion of arc reactor. According to Ren's understanding of these two kinds of energy, one belongs to the solar attribute and the other belongs to the lunar attribute. The sun is explosive and fierce, and difficult to restrain. It can only be blocked by super strong materials to achieve the purpose of controlling this energy. The Taiyan is cold and bright, and is not stable. It needs a strong magnetic field and a strong position to control it. The biggest problem Dr. Otto encountered was that the restraint material was not strong enough. The existing materials on the Earth, and even the most cutting-edge technology in materials science, cannot carry it. But for Ren, this is not a difficult task. If science is not enough, magic will make up for it. Whether it is the jade record treasure refining seal or some protective formations, you can easily do things that cannot be achieved by science. And these are not the reasons for Ren Shen'er's confusion. What really stunned Ren was the similarities between the two energies of the lunar and the sun. This reminds Ren of something, the Emperor's man. Chapter 91. Emperor's liquid is a treasure of the demon clan discovered in the origin of the two ancient stars, the sun star and the lunar star, through the intersection of yin and yang in the Luofu world. The reason why it is said to be the most precious treasure of the demon clan is not because the Emperor's liquid has any effect on those powerful demon clan. But this Emperor's ooze is more useful to the lower level beings. Evolution brings about wisdom, enlightenment and enlightenment. In the Luofu world, the demon race has become one of the mainstream races in the world. The biggest guarantee is that the existence of this Emperor's liquid can ensure that the demon clan continues to increase its members. This principle is also feasible in the world where people live. It's just that if you don't master the sun and lunar stars, you can't promote the intersection of the lunar and sun sources to create the Emperor's fluid. But now the artificial sun proposed by Dr. Otto has given Ren a chance. 747 The artificial sun, even if it is a copycat or a million times smaller, is still a sun and can give birth to the original source. But even so, it is enough for Ren. The demon emperors and queens in the Luofu world create infinite emperors, which benefits the entire world and the demon clan. People only need to take care of the 5 elements spirit insects. If it weren't for the Jotian galaxy formation on Longju Island that can only condense spiritual energy but cannot extract the source of the stars, there is no way that Ren would run back and start experiments now. On Longju Island, there is a ready-made Lianji Machin formation. Just pick enough sun origin and lunar origin and put them into the Lianji dust formation. Under the birth and death of the world and the intersection of yin and yang, the Emperor's liquid will naturally appear. The problem is, how to collect enough of the sun and lunar sources. From this point of view, Dr. Medical Doctor is my lucky star. Thinking of this, Ren looked at Dr. Otto and suddenly became extremely friendly. Immediately, Ren glanced at Professor Connors and said, "Professor Connors, have you mentioned anything about practice and beehives to Dr. Otto?" Professor Connors was stunned for a moment and quickly replied, "Chairman, I have already mentioned it, but..." Ren frowned and said, "It's just that the other party insists that science is everything, so he doesn't really believe it, right?" Professor Connors smiled awkwardly and said, "Chairman, Dr. Otto doesn't completely disbelieve it, but all his energy is now devoted to the tritium experiment, and he doesn't care about anything else." After Professor Connors signed the list of gods and started practicing, he also had some extraordinary tricks. With Professor Connors as a person, it is not difficult to guide Dr. Otto to achieve extraordinary cognition. But not everyone in the world will be attracted to spiritual practice and extraordinary existence. Now Dr. Otto seems to have given birth to 2 inner demons. "I just want to do the tritium experiment and don't care about anything else." Obsession. This thing is not difficult to solve, just complete the Wen experiment. Immediately afterwards, the Taiyin jade ring glowed between Ren's fingers, and he waved his hand to take out a piece of pale gold and iron with many patterns engraved on it. The sudden creation out of thin air shocked Dr. Otto. Immediately, the doctor's eyes gleamed and he asked, "Is this dimensional storage technology? Or?" Ren was speechless and said, "Dr. Otto, don't worry about the technical principle of the lunar jade ring. Do you think this red sun copper mother can be used to make a protective furnace to restrain the artificial sun? The so-called Qiang bronze mother is actually a spiritual material that was created by using Junyang golden bell for more than 2 years. When I first came to this world, Ren doesn't have much means or power yet, he only has the world seal, the pure Yang golden bell and the Tianfuan seal. When he first set out to practice, Ren never thought about refining magical spiritual treasures such as the bone god demon and the blood-transforming demon sword. Instead, he wanted to use the sword techniques in Tianhe Zhenfa to refine a flying sword. However, the spiritual materials for refining flying swords are hard to find. Ren then used the stupidest method to collect some hardware materials with pure Yang golden bells and magic power, and stored them. It's just that after Ren inherited the family power and entered the ranks of corpse collectors, the path of human beings will go further and further away. After the appearance of methods such as the bone god demon, the red dust heart refining furnace, the Taiyin jade ring, and the blood transforming demon knife, these spiritual hardware materials that have been cultivated by people for a long time have been forgotten. Until now. Dr. Otto pointed out that the materials for making protective furnaces were not enough, and Ren just remembered these magical hardware materials that were of no use at the moment. After 2 years of cultivation, these materials can be considered to have greatly increased their spirituality and become richer in essence. But if it's a top-notch spiritual material, it's far behind. On the contrary, it is very suitable to make up for the shackles of science and technology in materials. Seeing the red sun copper mother exuding a light golden halo, Dr. Otto did not refute, but said very rigorously, "Chairman, I need to conduct certain tests and experiments on these materials. Without data, it is difficult for me to give an answer." Ren waved his hand and asked him to start testing directly. Today's Sullivan Group, which has absorbed Osborn's legacy, is wealthy and well equipped. After less than half an hour, Dr. Otto was already like a madman, stroking the red sun copper mother-in-law. His appearance was gentler than that of his wife, and his smile showed all his teeth. Alas, what a sin, this man can't be crazy. Look at Dr. Otto's idiotic behavior. Ren hesitated for a moment, but finally woke him up from his obsession. Dr. Otto, there is no doubt about the preciousness of the red sun bronze mother, even in the whole world. I know, if I join, please Chairman, please give me 10 points of red yang copper mother. Professor Connors told me that I should dedicate my soul to the Chairman. Listening to Dr. Otto's words, Ren's whole face was filled with black lines, and then he looked in the direction of Professor Connors with an incomprehensible look. 2.8 Professor Connors came with an awkward but polite smile. After a little struggle, Professor Connors said, "Chairman, it's not that I didn't explain it well, but the Eastern cultivation culture is profound and profound. If Dr. Otto doesn't understand the essence, it will be difficult for me to explain it to him in Western languages. This is not my problem, but Dr. Otto's own problem. I have had many times cultural differences and issues of understanding." Ren waved his hand very tiredly, and then took out a silver page of the list of gods. After Dr. Otto's true spirit was listed on the list, he didn't even care about the practice method, and directly took the red yang bronze mother to carry out his own experiments. People can't help but sigh, what a good tool man. None of the donkeys in the production team are so diligent. Chapter 92. After obtaining the red sun bronze mother, Dr. Otto left in a hurry. After Ren sighed for a moment, he once again set his sights on Professor Connors. Professor Connors was extremely embarrassed. Because just now, Dr. Otto obviously treated the chairman as a devil playing with people's souls. And all of this is the reason why Professor Connors failed to do the preliminary work well. Forget it, a group of barbarians cannot have too high demands. In any case, it is still up to Professor Connors to carry the banner of the R&D department. Such a good tool man cannot be too harsh on the other party. He patted Professor Connors on the shoulder. Ren encouraged, "Professor Connors, don't blame yourself too much, you have done a very good job. When Dr. Otto ends his obsession, he will understand everything. No matter what, it is always good to focus on the results. Next, I need you to start a topic on gene migration in insects. This topic is very important to me. The resources and channels within the group, including Longju Island, can be opened to you in large quantities. I need to get certain results as soon as possible. Insects and genetic topics, this is Professor Connors' specialty. Especially when I heard that Ren would fully open most of the resources and channels to himself." Professor Connors was so excited that he almost jumped up. "You know that you are still the chairman's ultimate wish." Professor Connors patted his chest with one hand and said, "Don't worry, Chairman, I will definitely work hard to meet the chairman's requirements, but I need the group's channels in Asia to collect something." Ren raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Asia?" Professor Connors said excitedly, "Yes, Chairman. I recently read a piece of news in a biotech weekly article. Dr. Jack Byron of Byron Mickey Biotechnology published a research result in a weekly magazine. Dr. Jack Byron discovered a rare immortal flower, the blood orchid, in Borneo. There is a chemical component in blood orchid that can extend the life of cells and has the possibility of breaking the Hayflick limit. Once the research is confirmed, this will be a huge breakthrough for all biological research. But there seem to be some problems with Dr. Jack Byron's expedition in Borneo. I need to mobilize our group's armed forces in Asia to obtain orchid." Speaking of biotechnology, Dr. Connors seemed particularly excited and talked eloquently. Listening to the slightly familiar story rhythm of the other party, Ren thought of the series of disaster movies he had watched, Anaconda. The Anaconda movie series was filmed around the gimmick of Hayflick's limit. Hayflick proposed that cells replicate 56 times before dying. All living things will eventually die at this limit. In Anaconda, blood orchids allow a group of snakes entrenched in Borneo to break this limit, triggering a series of disaster stories. Life extension, to some extent, is linked to biological genes and the origin of life. Breaking this limit may not necessarily change biological genes, but it can indeed stimulate changes in the origin of life, which will lead to the possibility of blood sublimation and genetic jump. Definitely, this is just a possibility. In Anaconda, those pythons that have undergone changes, no matter how big they are and how powerful their destructive power is, they still cannot get rid of the beastly nature of snakes. In other words, blood orchid can only be used as a stimulating factor, but cannot serve as an evolutionary bridge. But this is also good news. At the very least, blood orchids can be a good start for cultivating real 5-element spiritual insects. What's more, if the effect of blood orchid is confirmed to be effective on humans, the benefits and influence that the life extension gimmick can bring to the Sullivan Group will be unprecedented. Just for a moment. Ren had already made a decision and said, "Dr. Connors, the group is looking for Lanhua. The emergence of blood orchids will definitely cause a great sensation in the biological science community. I need you to contact CEO Laura now. Whether it's wooing or acquiring, first get Byron Mickey Biotech into our hands. If necessary, I will let Firefox help you. Do you understand what I mean? Using Firefox means using off-board tricks." Dr. Connors just hesitated for a moment and quickly said firmly, "Definitely, Chairman, don't worry, I will persuade Dr. Jack Byron. The relationship between the blood orchid is too complex and Dr. Jack Byron cannot control it. We will help him sensible." Ren glanced at Dr. Connors very appreciatively, and then left quickly. I have to say that this trip to the R&D department did not yield much. The idea of making Emperor's liquid, Dr. Otto's inclusion on the list, the collection of the source of the sun, and the appearance of blood orchid, etc., these are enough for people to see the future of cultivating 5-element spirit insects. Blood orchid is the stimulating factor that starts evolution and is not difficult to obtain. Those giant pythons in Borneo may be able to use the environment to hinder ordinary mercenaries, but they can never stop the super lizard warriors under Ren. With the blood orchid, all that's left is to find a way to create the Emperor's liquid. The birth of the Emperor's ooze requires the origin of the sun and the origin of the lunar yin. 307 among them, the cluster collection of the sun's origin should be solved soon in the hands of Dr. Otto. So the only thing left is to collect the origin of Taeyan. Arc reactor. There should be 10 large-scale completed products in the Stark Group now. Ren actually doesn't care whether the arc reactor is large or small. The key is the lifeblood of the Stark Group and is related to the future of the entire Stark Group. As long as Tony Stark is not an idiot, he will not hand over the production method of the arc reactor. How about contacting Obadiah Stan? Mud, he just wants to live an ordinary and comfortable life of cultivating immortals in this dangerous world. Why do you have to force yourself to go the villain's path in this situation? He touched the Taeyan jade ring on his hand. Under the operation of Xiangong Intelligent Zora, a virtual projection quickly appeared in front of Ren, forming the shape of a cloud mirror, floating around Ren. I have to say that Zola is really capable and is becoming more and more proficient in developing various small spells. And at this moment, Ren was feeling a little emotional. Yunjing quickly connected to Firefox's Taeyan jade ring and projected Firefox's image. Firefox, are you still in contact with Obadiah Stane recently? Chapter 93. On a luxury private jet flying to Los Angeles. Ren held the very happy Isabel in his arms, sat on a soft couch, and looked at the blue sky and white clouds outside. At the same time, there was a very pious Firefox, massaging Ren's shoulders. This trip to Los Angeles was naturally to meet Obadiah Stane, have a good chat, and see how I could get my hands on the production method of the arc reactor. But when Ren made the decision to go to Los Angeles, Isabel followed him desperately. Speaking of which, Isabel's hometown, including the headquarters of the Chaos Witches, is in Los Angeles. Ren came here with the intention of meeting his father-in-law. Ren is still very curious about the Chaos Witch group. In a world where black technology like the Marvel movie universe is prevalent, the witch sect is one of the very few forces in the world that has a complete and extraordinary practice method. Among the main members in the later period of Avengers Alliance, popular characters such as Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch can all have something to do with the Chaos Witch group. Especially Scarlet Witch Wanda, Ren is looking forward to it very much. If Scarlet Witch wasn't still a baby, Ren might have just gone to Eastern Europe. Origin magic power or something, it doesn't matter. Ren didn't think his magical powers would be that weak. The 36 heavenly powers, the 72 earthly evil powers, etc., if practiced to the depths, are top-notch methods that can lead directly to the great law, which are enough to guarantee great love. What Ren really cares about is that there should be some chaos attributes in Wanda's pure yin energy. Chaos, no matter where it is placed in the world, is definitely a high-end existence that cannot be underestimated. Now he is already an authentic foundation-building source and heal. In the future, relying on the yin-yang Hehuan Dao, maybe we can achieve the foundation of the heavenly Dao. But even if you build the foundation of heavenly Dao, it is only the limit of the day after tomorrow. As for chaos, once it appears, it must be a person above the innate level, and there will never be any leakage. If you can get the pure yin energy of chaos, you can use it for dual cultivation. Ren's immortal foundation may be able to further metamorphosis, from the extreme of acquired nature, directly to the innate heel and foot. That kind of metamorphosis is the true sense of rebirth. Although Scarlet Witch is still young at this time, it does not prevent Ren from establishing a good relationship with the witch group. After a while, let Isabel accept Wanda as her apprentice in the name of discovering the genius of the witch. Hehe, the master-disciple rice bowl is also quite wonderful. Big bad guy, what are you thinking about? Hey? Is it already here? Baby Isa, holding you, I can't feel the passage of time. Don't think I'll forgive you if you say a few nice words, but wait, you change the subject again. Don't be ridiculous, why are you using magic, baby Isa, planes are very expensive vahole, I'll bite you. With Isabel here, people will never lack happiness. This cute and arrogant girl is so fun and easy to tease. Wait until the plane lands. Isabel no longer looked angry, she was as happy as a bird, almost flying with Ren. After getting off the plane, Isabel was extremely happy and ran towards a figure in the airport passage. On that figure, he had silver hair, and his clothes were meticulously taken care of. He looked a bit noble and British, but also had a hint of wisdom and gentleness. Afu, is that you? Mud, it's time to go. If this wasn't a world dominated by the Marvel movie universe, Ren would have thought he was seeing Mr. Batman's butler Afu. The huge soul power circulates, and the memories of past lives flash rapidly. Soon, the memory was fixed on Gil Beach Lojin, the fairy wife. It turns out to be Isabel's father. This name is not very good. How should I call him later? Old Chicken? Uncle Chicken? Or just call him Chicken? Just when Ren was somewhat confused, Isabel had already taken old Gil's arm, came to Ren, and looked at Ren. Very nice boy, Isa, this is the best choice you've ever made in your life. So, young man, aren't you going to say hello to me? Old Gil's whole person always carries a kind of unhurried gentleness and wisdom, and his slightly slow speech always reveals the wisdom of life experience. Ren smiled and decided to do as the Romans do and said, Uncle, I'm glad to see you. Old Gil also smiled and said, Ren, right? You are much braver than I was when I was young. When I first met Isa's grandfather, I was so scared that my legs were weak. You know, I am the son-in-law of Isa's mother, a witch family, but there are a lot of troubles. I have to admit that Ingel is a very charming old man. Humorous, interesting, and with some kind reminders. Obviously, there should be many people in the Chaos Witch group, or at least some people, who have opinions about Ren. As for old Gil, he probably doesn't have a high say in the witch group. Otherwise, the other party would not use the term son-in-law who comes to the house to insult himself. A kind reminder to old Jill. Ren unconsciously showed a hint of domineering and said, Uncle, with my current strength, identity, and status, no matter where I am, there should be very few things that can cause me trouble. If Uncle is not happy living in Los Angeles, he might as well live with Isa until the date is broken. I like Isa very much. We will be a family, so don't be polite to me. After hearing Ren's words, Turgil was slightly surprised. Immediately, Isabel muttered an explanation in old Gil's ear. After a while, old Gil came with a relieved smile on his face and said, That's really great. Let me just say that Isa's choice this time is the best one in her life. Let's go home now. I'll tell you about the situation on the way. We've already arrived in Los Angeles, and I won't let you and Isa have fun outside all the time. When people heard this, they also chuckled. On the other hand, Isabel, who had always been extremely cheerful, suddenly showed a somewhat depressed expression on her face when she heard old Gil was going to talk about some old things from the past. Obviously, Isabel's previous running away from home may not have been that simple. Chapter 94. On the way back to Isabel's home in Los Angeles, old Gil said something briskly. Most of them are related to the Chaos Witches and Isabel's mother. Witches are different from dark creatures such as vampires and werewolves in the traditional sense. Most of the dark creatures such as vampires and werewolves are experimental products in the war between the gods. Most of them are pure cannon fodder and are thrown away after use. As for witches, more than 90% of them are the inheritance left in the human world by the children of ancient earth gods. This inheritance may be a kind of magic, a bloodline, or even a curse. At the end of the War of the Gods, infus fighting decreased. The gods began to use milder means to compete for belief, influence, and even magical loans. In this process, conspiracy and smearing opponents are all conventional methods. Coupled with the ignorant period of human beings on Earth, the status of women is extremely low. Those witches whose strength exceeds that of ordinary people are directly labeled as heretics, devils, evil, etc. by those in power. The Chaos Witches were a loose alliance of witches in the Middle Ages. They became best friends and sisters during hundreds of years of confrontation with human authorities. This situation has persisted until modern times, when women's social status continued to improve. The power of the Chaos Witches began to grow rapidly, and they even became one of the 13 seats in the Dark Council. There is no way, more than 1,000 years of various slanders. Even in modern times, witches and so on, in the mainstream of human society, sleepiness is the word for evil. The authorities will definitely not tolerate it. No matter how fierce the clamor of feminist organizations is, no matter how much women's social status is improved, in today's era, male chauvinism is still the mainstream of society. This is an objective fact. Therefore, the Chaos Witch group can only participate in the underground forces and serve as ministers. But the Chaos Witches have become one of the 13 seats in the Dark Council. But in fact, within the Chaos Witch group, some witches, led by Isabel's mother, still do not admit that they are members of dark creatures. At the same time, some witches began to study black magic in pursuit of power and committed suicide. This kind of internal struggle without external pressure is sometimes more terrifying than external struggle. In order to gain the leadership position of the Chaos Witch Coven. Just over 10 years ago, some of the witches in the Chaos Witch group, headed by Agatha Harkness, even took refuge in the Mephisto of Hell Welcome. When Agatha and others were organized to perform a dark ritual to summon Mephisto from hell. Isabel's mother was severely injured by the power of a hellish Mephisto and eventually died. Isabel's mother was originally the person who carried the order on the side of the witch group, and was a strong candidate for the next leader of the witch group. After the death of Isabel's mother, the original orderly side of the witch coven suddenly collapsed. As Agatha and others completely surrender to the darkness, the forces are getting bigger and bigger. Naturally, the life of Isabel, old Jill, and others in the Chaos Witch group became increasingly difficult. Isabel also seems to be carrying the title of a little princess of a witch coven. But in fact, with the strength of the Chaos Witches, if they really cared about Isabel, how could they let Isabel run away from home for several months without finding any clues? It's just that Kyo is Agatha and others, clearing away the influence of the massacre. Wait until old Jill finishes telling things about Isabel. Everyone also came to Santa Monica Bay in Los Angeles. This is not the residence of the Chaos Witches, or even the sphere of influence of the Chaos Witches, but an official focus area. Back when Isabel was just in elementary school, old Gil knew that he was no match for Agatha and the others, so he brought Isabel here early. In a sense, the Chaos Coven has never been Isabel's home. An inconspicuous single-family house in this bay is Isabel's home. Isabel's running away from home was nothing more than dropping out of the witch school. Returned to an ordinary home. Old Gil was very gentlemanly and familiar, and started to prepare some food, drinks, and other things. Isabel, on the other hand, looked boneless and fell directly into her sofa, letting out a nostalgic moan. Engel was obviously not surprised by Isabel's appearance. Ren was also speechless. He stepped forward and hugged the seemingly open-minded Isabel, trying to comfort her complicated emotions. Isabel doesn't seem to approve of the Chaos Coven. But in fact, if she really didn't approve of it, Isabel would not leave home. This was originally like a child's rebellion against his parents. No matter what, the Chaos Witches left a very deep impression on Isabel's memory, and even carried her mother's dream. As for Isabel's father, I'm sorry, he really looks more like a housekeeper. This is also true. Chaos Witches, as you can tell from the name, is the ultimate feminist organization. When old Gil was young, he was really a door-to-door son-in-law. Even Isabel's mother may not have much love for old Jill, she just needs an obedient husband to help her continue her bloodline. Old Gil served Isabel's mother for more than 100 years. That is to say, in the few years after Isabel was born, old Gil may have made some improvements. Even old Gil himself has adapted to this kind of butler personality, which is extremely difficult to change. Just like now. Even if Isabel was in a bad mood, Ren immediately hugged her. As the father, old Gil still maintains a certain distance, and even if he cares, it is unknown. This is very suitable for Synthesis to be the steward of his own Dragon Ball Island. Although Zora has many functions and extremely strong abilities, she is ultimately a tool to assist in spiritual practice that has been erased and shielded from some emotions. If old Gil helps with daily life, Longju Island will be much more lively and the atmosphere of life will be stronger. It's not like Ren has never thought about recruiting a group of people to the island before. But only the current old Gil is the most suitable, and more pleasing to Ren's eyes. After making up his mind to take old Gil back as a housekeeper, Ren brushed up Isabel's favor and said, "Baby Isabel, tomorrow I will go to the Witch Guild with you and say goodbye to those old witches. From now on, you and Lao Gil, please move to Longju Island. We are a family." Ren's words instantly touched Isabel's emotional point. Isabel hugged Ren's neck as if there was no one there, her eyes were misty. Love. Chapter 95. In Santa Monica Bay, thunder from the sky stirred up fire on the ground, and it was out of control. At the same time, located in the Witch Castle, a famous tourist attraction in Hollywood. Through an invisible door, you can easily enter the headquarters of the Chaos Witches, one of the 13 seats of the Dark Council. Even among the other forces that are also members of the 13th seat of the Dark Council, few know this secret. The Witch Castle in Hollywood movies is a real witch castle. The witch shrine that countless people are looking for is actually right under people's noses. I have to say, this is really a great irony. However, unlike the previous tranquility inside the Witch Castle, at the moment a large number of real power holders of the Witch Group were all gathered in an extremely bright auditorium. Except for the 5 extremely powerful witches headed by them. In the entire auditorium, from time to time, a huge mouse would run in, stand up, and transform into a middle-aged witch with a wretched temperament. There are also venomous snakes swimming around, sliding down from the beams, and landing into witches with a sinister temperament. After more than half an hour, most of the seats in the auditorium are full, and the castle barrier is fully open. Agatha hasn't come back yet. No, maybe Mephisto is more hospitable and a messenger has sent a message. Agatha will stay in the south for a while and let us decide on Issa's affairs by ourselves. What else is there to decide? Isabel, the little BCH, brought Ren Sullivan. Haha, Maggie, the overlord of the underworld and the king of the underground, are you afraid? BCH, Ren Sullivan is now the official favorite. Do you want to repeat the Samler incident? That's right, the current officials are not easy to mess with. Women holding meetings is a scarier thing than America's election. 3 women can put together a show, but now with nearly 100 swarming witches gathered together, the whole scene is simply more chaotic than an ant's nest thrown into a frying pan. That's enough, everyone be quiet. Just as the quarrel in the auditorium became louder and louder, the mouth of one of the first 5 women suddenly expanded like a woman with a slit mouth, and a substantial sound wave erupted. Wait until the auditorium becomes quiet. The woman just returned to her original appearance, wiping her mouth very elegantly and smiling at the other 4 people. Jennifer Kyle, Leo Vital, Paris, Shipton, Blair. The 5th of the 7 chiefs of the Chaos Witches. The other 2 seats are Agatha, who is currently the most popular, and Isabel's mother. However, Isabel is not strong enough now, and has been ostracized by Agatha's leaders in various ways, so she has been unable to inherit the seat and heritage left by her mother. Definitely, Agatha and the other 6 chief witches also have their own trump cards. 2 of them, Jennifer and Paris, were once surrounded by Isabel's mother. Leo Vital, Shipton and Blair followed Agatha as their leader. Now Agatha has gone to the Hell Dimension to visit Mephisto, and Isabel's mother has passed away long ago. This is a meeting for Isabel's return. In essence, Agatha is actually forcing most of the witches to make decisions, including the 2 chiefs Jennifer and Paris. Agatha was away, leaving all these witches to express their opinions. And the attitudes of these people will also be thoroughly recorded. When Agatha returns, it will be the final cleansing of Isabel's faction. But it's a pity that none of the witches who can appear in the auditorium have lived for at least 100 years, and all of them are extremely cunning and shrewd. Even Jennifer and Paris did not express any opinions. Anyway, as long as he opens his mouth, it means that Ren Sullivan is nothing to be afraid of and is just immortal. Regarding Isabel, no one took a positive stance. Who knows if Isabel's mother has left any cards for Isabel? The other party was once one of the most powerful witches in the Chaos Witch group. The scholars rebelled, and Tian Niancheng was born. And if a woman rebels, it will be difficult for 100 years to start. Agatha's plan to lure the snake out of the cave completely failed, and what was originally a prelude to seizing power and ascending the throne turned into a tea party. Let me tell you, although Ren Sullivan is only a mortal, he looks really good. It turns out that my sister also likes this conversation. Let's talk privately later. A bunch of rotten bee, all they have to talk about is what's in their crotches. Then what do you want to say? I want to say that if I catch Ren Sullivan, I have to give him a shot of lizard serum first. GG. It has to be you, this is a good idea, please give me flowers. Such a BCH, I'm often incompatible with you because I'm not perverted enough. The tea party in the witches' hall lasted from dark to late at night, and from late at night to dawn, and a group of crazy women obviously wanted to continue it. And this time, Isabel's home on the Santa Monica Bay. People have gotten up early, facing the rising sun and the sea, and breathing in the first ray of purple air between heaven and earth. Doing double cultivation with Isabel has been of great help to Ren. As Ren discovered early on, Isabel's pure yin origin contains an extremely rare and transcendent spirituality. Although its pure yin energy did not continue to promote Ren's immortal foundation to sublime it again, it brought great benefits to Ren in terms of soul comprehension. It's like Ren's soul comprehension has been stabilized by huge amounts of amplification halo. And this brings the most intuitive benefits. That is, Ren has instant control over his own magical power that has increased by 300 years, like an arm and a finger, and there is no sluggishness in the operation. At the same time, people can clearly feel the many shortcomings in their own realm, supernatural powers and spiritual treasures. As long as these shortcomings are made up for, a person's foundation, state of mind, conduct, combat effectiveness, etc. will be greatly improved. After adjusting your cultivation level and finishing breathing, Ren turned around and was surprised to find that old Jill had prepared hot cocoa early and was wearing an apron, preparing breakfast. Seeing the end of Ren's practice, old Gil looked at Ren, raised his head and smiled, giving people a very comfortable attitude. Next to old Gil, Firefox was filled with resentment, always feeling that this old man had taken his job. How old are you? Why are you fighting for your daughter's favor? It's too embarrassing. Ren ignored Firefox's resentment, tasted the hot cocoa on the table, and gave old Gil a thumbs up. It was only then that Ren looked at Firefox and said, "Have all the personnel been summoned?" Firefox instinctively said solemnly, "Master." Sloane personally led the team to Judge Night Cross. After listening to Firefox's report, Ren nodded and said, "Very good, inform Obadiah Stan to postpone the meeting until the afternoon. This morning, I am going to the Hollywood Witch Castle to deal with some matters." Chapter 96. Ren actually had a good impression of the Chaos Witch group. After all, among the 13 seats of the Dark Council, the Chaos Witch group is relatively mild and does not cause trouble very much. Plus his love for Isabel. So after Ren's cultivation and power increased, even though he knew that the Chaos Witches were the only ones whose home base was hidden in America, Ren didn't bother anyone to find the Chaos Witches when he was collecting training resources. You know, if other forces want to mix in America, they have to pay protection fees to Ren. It can be said that Ren's tyranny is even worse than that of Kingpin. It's just that Ren doesn't have much desire for worldly money. What he collects from many gangsters are flowers, plants, minerals, traditional Hyuxia medicine, antiques and the like. In addition, Ren has the presence of the Super Lizard 257 lizard warriors under his command as a deterrent. Otherwise, those large underground forces all over the world would have been in trouble long ago. Among all the underground forces in America, the only exception is the Chaos Witches and their secular gangs. But now, after learning about Isabel's encounter with the Chaos Witches from Old Bill, Ren's impression of the Chaos Witches is not so good. Even now, Ren's soul power can cover the entire city. Last night, Ren was fully aware of the various belittlements, complaints, and ridicules made by those witches towards Ren. His tolerance and forgiveness were met with contempt and contempt. Then we can only let these ignorant witches understand what immortal power is and cannot be offended. We've already arrived in Los Angeles, so we have to bring some souvenirs back with us. What's more, he now has Isabel as an excuse. Even if the entire Chaos Witch group is turned upside down and spread to the Dark Council, there is a good reason and it will not arouse the same hatred of all forces. After a fairly warm and peaceful breakfast, Ren held Isabel in his arms as if he were casually going out shopping. He said hello to old Jill and left with Isabel. After just half an hour, Ren's motorcade was like a sharp spear, heading directly into Hollywood. Accompanied by a summons from the Sullivan family. Almost half of Los Angeles gangs, file-size gangsters, etc. all came to Hollywood and cleaned up the streets like crazy. Even thousands of tourists from around the world responded to the official response. The entire Los Angeles government was as motionless as a dead dog. After an hour, the entire Hollywood, for the rare occasion, fell into an unprecedented state of silence. If it weren't for the countless tattooed men standing in the streets in all directions, people might still think that this is a dead city. Until then, Ren hugged Isabel and Firefox and walked out of the car. When the princess returns to her castle, no one comes to greet her. The local forces are really rude. Since the princess's castle no longer welcomes the princess, then there is no need for this castle to exist. Owen, take command and dismantle it for me. After Ren's words fell, Owen Mao became extremely excited. Yes, this is the little boss of the Sullivan family who once complained that Frank acted like he was going to fight in Iraq. As one of the first men to follow Ren. Today, Irving has long become the powerful boss of the Sullivan family, and was named by Ren to take charge of the entire west coast of America. Some of the action teams trained by Frank and John one after another are also under Owen's hands. Make a fuss in Hollywood and demolish the witch's castle. Owen never thought in his life that he would have such a glorious day. Why are you still standing there in a daze? Didn't you hear what the boss said? Guys from the action team, 10 minutes, I only give you 10 minutes to demolish this castle. Under the attention of all the underground forces in Los Angeles. Owen's hair stood up in excitement, his face turned red and he let out the loudest roar. Immediately afterwards, more than 300 members of the Sullivan family's action team came out, each one smiling ferociously and tearing off his own shirt. As the first action team member began to transform. In less than 10 seconds, 300 version 2.0 super lizard warriors more than 3.5 meters tall, like a tank cluster charging, crashed directly into the witch castle. People's cultivation and power are getting bigger and bigger. Professor Connor's research on lizard serum has never stopped. Even after Serena completed her bloodline, she contributed 3 drops of perfect blood to the underground hive base, which was enough for Professor Connors to develop a bottle of truly perfect version of the lizard serum. It has always been Professor Connors' wish to reborn a broken limb through lizard serum recovery. If Professor Connors succeeds in this research and development, then in Serena's revenge operation in Europe, she will relatively reduce the number of outright killings, and instead capture a large number of pure-blooded blood clan with perfect blood for breeding and cultivation. So even Owen's men have version 2.0 of the lizard serum. Ren is not surprised at all. What is truly shocking are the majority of gangs in Los Angeles who are called upon to maintain order. How fierce are 300 super lizard warriors? Just look at the Invincible Hulk and you will know that one hate can destroy more than 10 streets of Manhattan. When 300 super lizard warriors rushed forward, it was like a local earthquake disaster in Hollywood. Made of solid porcelain and stacked bluestone, the witch castle covers an area of more than 3,000 acres. Under the violent demolition of these super lizard warriors, it was like a toy made of building blocks. The thick wall of 7 or 8 meters high was directly knocked out with huge gaps. 3.8 It only takes 5 minutes. The entire witch castle felt like it had been plowed by heavy artillery. There are big holes everywhere, and rubble that have been blown apart everywhere. And looking at this scene, Ren didn't know when he had lit a spiritual cigar, and took a very satisfied sip. The strength of these 2.0 version super lizard warriors has been significantly improved compared to the original version. In terms of physical defense alone, they can almost withstand rockets. Without heavy artillery and missiles, it would be difficult to pose any threat on the battlefield. Moreover, it has been nearly a year since the lizard serum and genetic medicine were released. It is also time to upgrade and put more pressure on the official arms race of various countries. Chapter 97. The witch castle can be used as the home of the Chaos Witches, and there must be a lot of mystery in it. Not to mention other things, there are countless magic traps and so on. If ordinary people attack the witch's castle, once the magic trap inside is activated, even if they send a whole team of marines into it, they can only deliver food. But before the witches built this castle, they never considered that someone would demolish the castle. If it is a heavy artillery or missile attack, witches can also activate magic circles, witch barriers, etc. to intercept attacks directly from the outside. But the moment 300 super lizard warriors rushed into the witch's castle, most of the witches' arrangements were completely ruined. These are 300 living heavy artillery, and they have unparalleled defense and recovery capabilities. Destruction starts from the inside, and the magic circle, witch barrier, etc. are directly ineffective. As for magic traps and the like, put some poisonous snakes and poisonous insects, and more can trigger some lightning and fireballs. For the super lizard warrior, it is no different than scratching an itch. As a last resort, a large number of witches can only rush out from the inner space of the core to prevent the super lizard warriors from destroying the witch castle. After all, the internal core space of 23 also relies on the existence of the witch castle. If you really want these super lizard warriors to demolish the entire castle, what difference does it make if your mouth is stripped naked? However, these witches seriously underestimated the ferocity and tyranny of the super lizard warriors. This is a super soldier action team that can rival a large-scale modern mechanical army. Although the lightning and fireballs released by ordinary witches are quite powerful, comparable to grenades, and can cause great damage to ordinary people, they are less effective against super lizard warriors. A bolt of lightning struck, and the super lizard warrior froze for a moment, wiped away the black dust, and then smiled ferociously. As a poisonous mist went down, the super lizard warrior was stunned for a moment, as if he had received a tonic, and became even more excited. After a shape-shifting spell, the super lizard warrior transformed directly into a terrifying lizard war beast, becoming even more ferocious. It can be said that most ordinary witches, in front of these super lizard warriors, they are no different from little chickens. Only a very small number of witches with space magic and the like can barely cause a little chaos and damage to the team of super lizard warriors. But there are very few witches with special magic and witchcraft. As for the super lizard warriors, there were fully 300 of them, and they all went forward and fought without fear of death. However, these witches live for a very long time and have many tricks. After finding that they could not compete head-on, they quickly joined forces to activate a large number of large-scale control magics. The battlefield became a stalemate. It was longer than the 10 minutes Owen said. For 15 minutes, the entire witch's castle was still crumbling, and some witches tried their best to resist. Seeing this scene, Owen was immediately extremely angry. In an instant, darker green scales and bone spurs were exposed on Owen's body, and his body quickly rose to more than 4 meters tall, like 10 armored lizard men killing weapons. This is the 3.0 version of the lizard serum experimental product, a special version that integrates part of the bone demon's power. In the entire hive underground base, only 7 bottles of this product were produced. After the experience, it suddenly increased a lot, but it had negative killing emotions and could control the experimenter's mind. So this thing simply cannot be popularized on a large scale. Only family leaders like Owen, who have registered with Ren, own a bottle. There are restrictions left by people in the souls of these big bosses. These restrictions can not only help people control these people, but also have a certain spiritual protection effect. Roar! After the transformation, Owen roared to the sky, jumped directly across a distance of several hundred meters, and crashed directly into the battlefield like a meteorite. Those witches united and released various control spells. At this moment, they were all torn apart by Owen in an absolutely violent way. Integrated part of the bone demon's power. Owen also has a certain degree of bone demon ability, such as the evil spirit of white bones. Owen, who crashed into the battlefield, was like a powerful general on the ancient battlefield. In just an instant, he had torn the stalemate into pieces. After destroying the other party's alliance, a large number of super lizard warriors also roared and roared, all speeding up their advance. Less than 5 minutes. Even the witch, who was famous for her life-saving abilities, had more than 10 people die on the spot. At the same time, more than half of the witches were captured alive. And just when the battlefield was almost forming a one-sided situation, deep in the witch's castle, tyrannical energy finally exploded, and a shockwave like a tsunami exploded in a ring. The dozens of super lizard warriors who bore the brunt were directly crushed by the terrifying water flow. Most of the other super lizard warriors, even if they relied on various obstacles to relieve their strength and dodge, were eventually affected, and all their bones and muscles were broken and they were washed out by the current. Owen, who only had bone armor for protection, was barely injured, and he completely recovered after rolling around. But even so, Owen looked very embarrassed. On the contrary, the witches 663 in the castle were wrapped in earth-yellow shields and were not affected by the stormy waves of magic. At the same time, 2 witches shrouded in blue and yellow halos flew out of the castle and stood in the air. Ren Sullivan, are you going to start a war with our Chaos Witches? Humph, what Ren Sullivan? This is clearly the revenge of Isabel's BCH. 2 figures floating in mid-air. It is currently the 2 most powerful chief witches in the witch castle, Jennifer Kyle and Leo Vidal. Jennifer Kyle obviously doesn't want to have too huge amounts of conflict with Ren, and there is still room for words. And there was O'Darville, Agatha's loyal supporter, who immediately started to curse like a shrew without any mercy. Damn BCH, if you dare to be disrespectful to the boss, you will die. Hearing O'Darville's words, Irving went completely berserk and rushed towards the opponent like a cannonball soaring into the sky. Boom! Just when Owen was rising into the sky, I saw a flash of yellow light on the ring on O'Darville's hand, and the terrifying gravity broke out on the spot, pulling Owen down in mid-air. Under the pressure of gravity, the bone armor on Owen's body began to burst into a large number of cracks. Chapter 98. The Chaos Witches group can become one of the 13 seats in the Dark Council with only a few hundred people, which shows that it has some strong power. Even those ordinary witches are generally stronger than the original version of Super Lizard Warriors. The original version of 300 Super Lizard Warriors has been able to break up all the gangs in the entire contract. It is conceivable that any ordinary witch may be enough to control a gang. In addition, the witches have many and strange methods to save their lives. Hundreds of witches gathered together, and they could jointly cast spells and so on. Their strength was definitely not weak. Officials in ordinary society. Without the use of weapons of mass destruction, I'm afraid it won't be able to do anything to these ordinary witches. Not to mention, on top of the large number of ordinary witches, there are 6 or 7 chief witches. For example, the 2 people appearing in front of Ren right now. When the ring on O'Darville's hand flashed yellow, Ren even felt threatened, similar to the thrill he felt when he met the Ancient One. It is absolutely impossible for the other party to match the Ancient One magician. Then there is only the ring on the other person's hand. If not, that thing might be an artifact left behind by the ancient gods. Dirty bedbug, you really think that if you gain some extraordinary power, you can fight with me? Leo Darville was very unruly and arrogant in the sky, his fingertips were shining with light, and the increasingly tyrannical gravity of the earth was about to completely crush Owen into a meat pie. After a while, Ren temporarily activated his eyes and saw the true face of that thing clearly. It was truly an artifact. Although I don't know if the artifact can be compared with infinite gems, its material composition is on the same level as the branches and leaves of the world. It's just that the world tree is dominated by wood attributes and world attributes. The artifact in the opponent's hand is mainly earth and gravity attributes. Nice one. This thing is destined to me. After seeing through the essence of the artifact, Ren quickly cancelled the sky eye state and calmed down. Putting aside the artifacts, the so-called chief witch is just average. At most, it is the peak of Earth Demon, not even level sub-godfather. Even if the opponent has an artifact in hand, at best he can perform at a level other than level sub-godfather, which is still far from level godfather. I just felt sorry for Owen, who suffered a lot to gain observation time for himself. But there's nothing wrong with it. The tool man protects himself from disasters, which can be considered effective. It's not like he's going to die anyway, just give him some reward later. After understanding the opponent's strength, Ren casually annihilated the cigar in his hand into ashes, and then blew out a puff of smoke that contained great power. The Tianhe sword intention rolls around, mixed with the magic power, and shines brightly. And under the sword light, all the power covering Owen's body was cut into pieces. 300 years of magical power and cultivation. Ren can say unceremoniously that level sub-godfather will kill him indiscriminately. If the spirit treasure is used, there will be no single enemy under level godfather, and even level godfather can fight thousands of times. I thought the chief witch of the witch coven was so powerful. It turns out it's nothing more than that. Leo Darville, right? Do you really think that if you have a magical weapon in your hand, you will be invincible? Accompanied by Ren's cold snort and cold voice. In this piece of heaven and earth, there is a torrent of sword intent heading straight towards the bullfighting, causing the stars to shine in the daytime, as if the infinite rivers of heaven have converged into a sword, which is going to fall straight into the world and destroy all tangible and invisible things. Tianhe's true method is accompanied by Tianhe's sword method. Like Tianhe Zhenfa, this is also a late-stage swordsmanship. The more powerful the magic power is, the more powerful this sword technique is. In the Luofu world mark, the Tianhe ancestor fought against the alien demons, and a sword energy spanned the 8 wastelands of the universe, forming the true infinite Tianhe sword, and even broke the world barrier and penetrated most of the demons. Of course, people can't reach that level. But I can't help it. I watch it every day through world mark. Even though Ren's magic power is still not strong enough, the sword spirit he has developed is at least comparable to the realm of the spirit god. The power of Yuan Shen is approximately equal to that of level godfather. This is why Ren dares to say that he kills people indiscriminately under his level godfather. The sword's intention is to fix the soul, and in just an instant, he can kill the person's body and soul with the blood-transforming sword. That's it, everyone is the real 100-fighting Luofu monk for comparison. In this world, for those barbarians who have little knowledge, if people were not born with caution and courage, they would have become arrogant without limit. Give Ancient One a head shave, give Odin some contact lenses, and give me Lee a family planning training class. Just an old witch who has lived for hundreds of years. Under the impact of Ren's angry bullfighting sword intent. Not to mention continuing to control and destroy Irving, O'Davil was unable to maintain his position in the air, and he fell down from the sky in embarrassment. Fortunately, most witches are naturally cautious and possess many kinds of constant protection spells. Otherwise, the other party may not fall directly to death. Ren Sullivan, you are not immortal at all. You are so insidious, you have no martial ethics. Leo Darvel, who fell from the sky, was not stupid. He deliberately used his arrogant attitude and words to confuse Ren, but secretly he had turned into a shadow, as if he was escaping. It is impossible to fight to the death. There is no such witch in the world. Let Agatha deal with this scary guy later. If it doesn't work out, Agatha still has Mephisto from the Hell Dimension as her concubine. That's when O'Davil was thinking about it and was about to escape. But he saw Ren not far away, smiled coldly, stood still and grabbed the void with his hand, and the lunar jade ring flickered with light and captured Leo Darvel from the shadow. Its work. There are 5 ghosts in the Taiyin jade ring, which are specialized in breaking all kinds of restrictions and protection techniques. There O'Davil was so frightened by Ren's sword intent that he didn't even have time to resist at all, and was already grasped by Ren out of thin air. Your Majesty, I was actually joking before. I am Isa's aunt. I was also worried that the boyfriend Isa found would lie to her, so I asked someone to do a little test. I have good intentions. Really, I have been undercover next to Agatha all these years. What have you done? That is my ring of Gia. Leo Darvel soon screamed hysterically. Ren didn't even bother to look at the other person, and threw it in front of Owen with a wave of his hand. Owen, how she tortured you just now, you will torture her back. Thank you, boss, for giving me the opportunity. I will definitely take good care of her.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.